Chapter 508. Immortal Trapping Sword Will. Around the jade platform, countless old monsters stood up from their seats, staring at Venerable Lord Sword in the center of the platform in disbelief. In the ancient heavenly court, there were 4 great ancient heaven-suppressing swords, and the immortal trapping sword was one of them. Since time immemorial, anyone who could completely comprehend the sword intent of the 4 great ancient swords was a terrifying sword cultivator who was invincible amongst their peers. If venerated sword had comprehended the complete immortal trapping sword intent and was a half-step void refinement realm expert himself, his strength would certainly not be underestimated. Perhaps, he would already be unrivaled among those below the void refinement realm. These old monsters did not realize that Sword Venerable only had a trace of the immortal trapping sword will in his sword will and did not really comprehend it. As for the divine transformation realm cultivator from the 100 Swords sect who was knocked off the jade platform by the Sword Venerable, as soon as he recognized the immortal trapping sword will, his face immediately turned pale. He hurriedly got up from the ground and returned to the seats of the 100 Swords sect. He did not dare to challenge the Sword Venerable anymore. In his opinion, even though venerated sword was not a void refinement realm expert, he had comprehended the immortal trapping sword intent. How could he, an early divine transformation realm cultivator, contend against him? If you want to scheme against the giant demon clan, then fight me first. Venerable Sword suddenly unsheathed his sword and stood on the jade platform with his sword. He held an ancient sword with pine patterns in his hand and a huge sword case on his back. His short hair was like a halberd, and his white beard was fluttering in the wind. The sword aura around him was like a dragon, and he was as dignified as a god. On the 4 sides of the jade platform, there were countless seats. Millions of cultivators from more than 100 first-rate sects of the Rain world were seated there. A sea of people had gathered here. However, at this moment, no one dared to challenge Sword Venerable. Those who were at or below the soul formation level were afraid of Sword Venerable. As for the majority of the void refinement realm old monsters, it was only because of their status that they did not accept the challenge at this moment in order to avoid being labeled as bullying the weak. Venerated Sword was just a half-step void refinement realm expert after all. He was just a divine transformation realm cultivator. Every one of these void refinement realm old monsters cherished their reputation. Thus, they would certainly not bully a divine transformation realm cultivator. Sigh, old man Sword, you are really. Dong Su sighed while Zhu Qing's face was filled with shame. Zhu Qing's relationship with the Sword Venerable wasn't very good, and the two of them even had some enmity. However, when the giant demon clan was in trouble, Honorable Sword stood up for the giant demon clan considering that they were both part of the 7 supreme forces. Zhu Qing was truly touched by his generosity. This Sword Saint's sword will does contain a trace of the immortal trapping sword will, but it's only a trace. A mere trace of the immortal trapping sword will is not worth mentioning. However, rumor has it that there is a fragment of the immortal trapping sword hidden in Sword Island and that the fragment has been taken away by the white-robed sword god. This old man didn't believe this rumor at first, but now it seems like it's true. The sect master of the Ice Mountain Sword sect, Marquis Shenjian, snorted coldly. He looked at Venerable Sword with disdain, but he did not attack Venerable Sword due to his status. However, Marquis Divine Sword's voice rang out unabashedly. Many divine transformation realm old monsters heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that Sword Venerable didn't comprehend the complete immortal trapping sword intent. If Sword Venerable had only comprehended a sliver of the trapping deity sword will, then it was possible that none of the semi-divinity cultivators present could defeat him. Your Excellency is Sword Saint of Sword Island? Let this old man experience your Excellency's skills. An old man in a blue sword robe holding a green crystal flying sword suddenly jumped onto the jade platform and attacked Sword Venerable. This person was the sect master of the 100 Swords sect. He was also a half-step void refinement realm sword cultivator. Sect master of the 100 Swords sect, Zhao Jie. You are not my match. Qi Venerable Sword suddenly raised his sword. The ancient sword with pine patterns let out an ear-piercing sword cry. On the 10,000 zhang tall jade platform, even the wind and clouds changed their colors. All of a sudden, rays of dark green sword light pierced out, scattering into tens of thousands of sword light raindrops that covered the sky and the earth. Sword rain style. Zhao Jie's expression changed drastically. The power of Venerable Sword's sword rain style was already infinitely close to that of a void glimpse stage attack. Even though he knew that Venerable Sword was not to be underestimated, he did not expect him to be this powerful. He was almost invincible below the void refinement realm. In a hurry, Zhao Jie brandished his green crystal sword and displayed the sect guarding sword technique of the Hundred Swords sect, Hundred Swords style. In just an instant, Zhao Jie had already brandished hundreds and thousands of sword lights. However, none of these sword lights were a match for Venerable Sword's sword rain and were dispersed one after another. Zhao Jie's face was filled with disbelief. He hurriedly retreated, but it was already too late. He was already surrounded by the sword rain. Zhao Jie let out a blood-curdling scream. Tens of tiny bloody holes were left on his body by the sword rain. Then, he flew off the jade platform while spurting out blood. Even though he did not die, he was severely injured and defeated by Venerable Sword. Venerable Sword of the Sword Island wins. The Void Glimpse stage old man who was in charge of the arena announced. This person was the sect master of the Six Flames sect. His name was Yen Xiao. Venerable Sword is mighty. Many sword cultivators of the Sword Island who were seated at the last rank cheered. Who else wants to fight against me? Venerable Sword glared at the crowd of experts. Venerable Sword, you have great skills. I am the sect master of the Flying Swallow sect, Yen Hui. I would like to experience your skills. Among the crowd, a short old man carrying a sword on his back leaped onto the jade platform. He gave off a half-step void refinement realm aura force and sneered provocatively at Venerable Sword. This person had a short and small body, but his attacks were extremely fast. He suddenly drew his sword and pointed it towards the sky. The sword light actually faintly revealed the shadow of a flying swallow. What he displayed was actually a flying sword technique. Flying swallow style. That flying sword was as light as a swallow. It disappeared without a trace in a flash. It was enough to show how fast the sword light was. Venerable Sword's old eyes turned grim. He did not dare to be careless. With a wave of his sword light, he leaped into the sky and avoided the flying swallow's sword light. Then, he swung his sword down at Yen Hui who was standing on the ground. Sword waterfall style. In an instant, the sword light was like a waterfall that fell from the sky like the Milky Way from the 9 heavens. As soon as Yen Hui's flying sword came into contact with the waterfall-like sword light, it was immediately knocked back. Countless cracks appeared on the body of the sword. His natal flying sword was damaged. Yen Hui coughed out a mouthful of blood and raised his head. As soon as he saw the waterfall of sword light above his head that looked like the Milky Way, he was immediately terrified. It was already too late for him to retreat. Boom! The huge jade platform was shattered by the waterfall of sword light. Venerable Sword stood in the sky. Yen Hui's entire body was dyed with blood and he was severely injured. He looked at Venerable Sword with fear. Then, he fell unconscious and fell on the jade platform. Venerable Sword of the Sword Island wins. The sect master of the Six Flames sect said indifferently. Sect master. The group of experts of the 100 Swords sect immediately snatched Yen Hui back as they were afraid that Venerable Sword would kill him. Hiss! Below the jade platform, each of the Divine Transformation Realm experts was filled with fear. Venerable Sword's strength had indeed reached the realm where he was unrivaled among Divine Transformation Realm experts. Unless a true Void Refinement Realm expert attacked him, no one would be able to defeat him. For a moment, none of the Divine Transformation Realm experts dared to challenge Venerable Sword. Venerable Sword is mighty. The cultivators of the Sword Dao cheered even more ferociously. On the main seat of the Barbarian Dao sect, the sect master, Marquis Nan Man, gave an order to an old man carrying a sword behind him. He's just a mere half-step Void Refinement Realm cultivator. He actually dares to challenge 100 sects with just a trace of the broken immortal trapping sword intent. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lian Qin, go and kill him. Yes. The old man carrying a sword took a step forward and turned into a ray of light, appearing above the jade platform. This person was also a half-step void refinement realm sword cultivator. However, his aura force was not any weaker than Venerable Sword's. Venerable Sword landed on the ground and stared at the old man carrying a sword. He did not dare to underestimate this person. I, Lian Qin, am here to take your head under the sect master's order. As soon as the old man's words fell, a terrifying sword intent spread out from his body. The momentum of the sword intent was terrifying. There was even a trace of ancient sword intent which made Venerable Sword's heart tremble. Countless old monsters around the jade platform exclaimed once again. When Lian Qin drew out the huge sword on his back, the exclamations became louder and louder. This is the immortal slaying sword intent. And isn't the sword in Lian Qin's hand the immortal slaying ancient sword? No. The sword in Lian Qin's hand isn't the immortal slaying ancient sword. It's just an imitation sword. However, this sword contains a small fragment of the immortal slaying ancient sword. Its power must not be underestimated. Lian Qin pointed his sword at Venerable Sword. With just a step forward, he had already become one with the sword, turning into a huge sword light that could annihilate everything. With an unimaginable speed, he slashed at Venerable Sword. Venerable Sword's eyes widened. Instead of retreating, he advanced. In a duel between sword cultivators, momentum was the most important factor. If he retreated, even if it was just half a step, he would lose to his opponent because of his momentum. He knew that it was impossible for him to withstand the sword might of the imitation immortal slaying ancient sword with his own strength. However, it was impossible for him to retreat even half a step. Suddenly, he performed a hand seal and the sword box on his back immediately let out the sword cry of hundreds of thousands of flying swords. In the next moment, hundreds of thousands of flying swords flew out of the sword box like rain and slashed at the sword light that Lian Qin had become one with. Thousands of flying swords were slashed into pieces. Each of the flying swords was at least a core realm flying sword. The strongest ones were even half-step void treasure flying swords. This was Venerable Sword's biggest trump card. By releasing hundreds of thousands of flying swords, even a true void refinement realm expert would have to retreat in fear. Pooh! After shattering nearly 200,000 flying swords, the sword light of the imitation immortal slaying ancient sword was finally broken. Even Qin Meng spat out a mouthful of blood and his eyes were filled with fear. He was slashed into meat paste by the remaining 300,000 flying swords and died miserably on the ruins of the jade platform. Even his primordial spirit did not manage to escape. That was close. Venerable Sword heaved a sigh of relief. He held Lian Qin's broken immortal slaying ancient sword in his hand, but he still had a lingering fear. If he did not use his biggest trump card, he probably would not be able to defeat Lian Qin. Venerable Sword of the Sword Island is victorious. This time, even the Void Glimpse stage sect master's expression changed slightly. Obviously, he was shocked by Venerable Sword's insane sword control technique. Each of the spectators was shocked by Venerable Sword's insane sword control technique. Using the power of the sword box to launch 500,000 flying swords at the same time. Other than Void Refinement Realm old monsters, who else could withstand an attack from Venerable Sword? On the seats of the Barbarian Dao sect, Marquis Nan Man was enraged. He did not expect that a mere half-step Void Refinement Realm cultivator like Venerable Sword would actually dare to kill the people of his sect in front of the 100+ sects. How dare you kill my people? You're courting death. Marquis Nan Man leaped onto the jade platform. His body was sturdy and powerful. He stretched out his claw towards Venerable Sword and his aura force suddenly spread out. His Void Glimpse stage aura force swept across the ruins of the jade platform. No matter how powerful Venerable Sword's trump card was, it could only intimidate cultivators below the Void Refinement realm. As a Void Glimpse stage cultivator, why would Marquis Nan Man be afraid of Venerable Sword? As the sect master of the barbarian Dao sect, Marquis Nan Man naturally could not swallow the fact that Venerable Sword dared to kill the people of the barbarian Dao sect. No matter what, he must teach him a lesson. Not good. Venerable Sword had lost 3 people in a row. His magic power was greatly damaged and his cultivation base was far lower than Marquis Nan Man's. There was no way he could withstand Marquis Nan Man's claw attack. Under Marquis Nan Man's powerful aura force, Venerable Sword could only feel his breathing becoming sluggish. There was no way he could resist at all. If Venerable Sword wanted to kill Venerable Sword, he would pay with his life. Seeing that Venerable Sword was in trouble, Dong Su and Zhu Qing naturally could no longer sit still. How could they watch Venerable Sword die for the sake of the giant devil clan? Both of them took out their natal magic treasures and struck towards Marquis Nan Man's back. Feeling the attack coming from behind, Marquis Nan Man could not help but pause for a moment. Then, his claw turned into a palm and slapped towards Venerable Sword. At the same time, he suddenly turned around and pounced towards Dong Su and Zhu Qing with a cold smile. You're just a bunch of half-step void refinement realm cultivators. How dare you provoke me? You're courting death. Boom! Marquis Nan Man's palm strike shattered countless hollow spaces. Venerable Sword held his sword across his chest but he still could not withstand a void glimpse stage palm strike. Blood spurted out from his mouth as he was sent flying. Even though Dong Su and Zhu Qing managed to save Venerable Sword by a narrow margin, they were targeted by Marquis Nan Man. Marquis Nan Man turned around and without saying a word, he sent 2 palm strikes towards Dong Su and Zhu Qing. A vast palm force swept out, and Dong Su and Zhu Qing both coughed up blood. They couldn't block Nan Man's attack at all. Mere ants. How dare you provoke me? Marquis Southern Man said disdainfully. I may be an ant, but who do you think you are? What you don't know is that the giant demon clan is under the protection of one person. Protection? The protector of the giant demon clan you spoke of, could it be Zhou Ming? Marquis Nan Man had also heard of Ning Fan's deeds of killing the king of Shi country and the palace lord of the Scarlet Heaven Palace. When he first heard of Ning Fan's reputation, he naturally felt a little fearful. However, when he thought about it, it wasn't just his barbarian Dao sect that was targeting the giant devil clan. There were more than 100 forces. Including the barbarian Dao sect, there were 11 void refinement realm sections. There was no lack of void inquiry stage and void pierce stage experts among them. From Marquis Nan Man's point of view, no matter how strong Ning Fan was, he was not strong enough to resist a void pierce stage expert. Thus, he naturally would not dare to come and help the giant devil clan. Naturally, he was no longer afraid of Ning Fan. Humph. So what if Zhou Ming is protecting the giant devil clan? With over 100 sects here, Zhou Ming alone is definitely not a match for us. Moreover, he definitely won't dare to come here. The 3 of you, don't even think about scaring me. Go to hell. Marquis Southern Man's eyes turned cold. He pointed his finger and the finger force split into 3 rays, attacking the 3 venerated beings in 3 different directions. The venerated sword, Dong Su, and Zhu Qing were all severely injured at the moment. How could they withstand the finger force? Behind the huge cage, Feng Shuyan, who had been silent all this while, could no longer stay calm when she saw that her father was in danger of dying. She shed tears of anxiety and mumbled something but no one could understand her. She was just a little mute. She couldn't even beg the sect master of the barbarian Dao sect to spare her father's life, Island Lord. Venerated Sword. Clan Leader. Countless experts of Dong Su Island, Sword Island, and the Giant Devil clan were in a state of panic. However, none of them could save the 3 venerated beings. Boom. 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 The 3 rays of finger force landed on the ruins, causing smoke and dust to fill the sky. No one could see the situation of the battle clearly. Needless to say, the 3 venerated beings who were severely injured would certainly die after being hit by Marquis Southern Man's void glimpse stage finger force. There's no need to watch anymore. Venerated sword, venerated Dong Su and venerated giant will definitely die. The sect master of the Six Flames sect announced the result of the battle. Humph. Of course. If I can't even kill 3 half-step void refinement realm experts with my own hands, wouldn't I have lived my life in vain? Marquis Southern Man said disdainfully outside the smoke and dust. On the seats of the Lan Ling sect, King Lan Ling closed his eyes coldly. He did not care about whether the 3 venerated beings were dead or alive. In his eyes, no matter how strong the 3 venerated beings were, they were still ants. If the ants died, what did it have to do with him? The only reason he came to the Giant Devil clan was to obtain the Giant Devil Slate and Feng Shuian. He already had the 6-winged Devil Slate. If he could get the Giant Devil Slate as well, he would be able to ask Feng Shuian to translate the ancient scripture on the slate. The ancient scripture on the 2 slates might be enough for his true body to heal. On the seats of the Ghost Eye clan, Marquis Yugui sneered. The 8 old men of the Giant Devil clan are really good at keeping their composure. Their clan leader is about to die but they are still unwilling to show themselves. Humph. He stared at King Lan Ling coldly. He still had not forgotten the deep hatred between him and King Lan Ling. However, Marquis Yugui was also plotting against the Giant Devil clan at this moment. Before obtaining the slate of the Giant Devil clan, he would not fall out with King Lan Ling. When the slate appeared in the world, he would settle the old scores with King Lan Ling. On the seats of the martial sect, the vice sect master, Wu Tian, was looking at the ruins of the jade platform with cold eyes. Suddenly, he was slightly shocked. He actually received a message from the sect master, Marquis Wu Mu. As soon as he heard the content of the flying sword, his eyes were filled with fear and his face turned pale. Vice sect master, what happened? A few elders of the martial sect asked confusedly. As the vice sect master of the martial sect, Wu Tian was a void glimpse stage-old monster who could remain calm in the face of danger. However, he actually turned pale after hearing the content of the message. The elders of the martial sect could not imagine what could scare Wu Tian to this extent. Sect master has ordered us to leave the Giant Devil clan as soon as possible. We must not get involved in this mess because... Wu Tian could not finish the second half of his sentence because he was overwhelmed with fear. It was because a devil lord whom Marquis Wu Mu did not dare to disobey was rushing to the Giant Devil clan to avenge the clan. On the seats of the Nirvana Valley, the valley master of the second level of the Golden Body Refining Realm, Yuan Xiu, was looking at the direction where the smoke and dust were rising from the ruins of the jade platform. All of a sudden, he began to tremble uncontrollably. That kind of trembling was the pressure from the aura force of a body refinement realm expert. Under the smoke and dust, there was something giving out a terrifying body refinement aura force that made Yuan Xiu instinctively feel fear. On the seats of the Scarlet Demon sect, the sect master, King Qiyao, looked at the direction of Marquis Nan Man and licked his lips. The Void Inquiry stage aura force in his body was ready to be unleashed. Even the clan leader of the Giant Devil clan was dead. Now, who else in the Giant Devil clan could stop the 100+ sects from snatching the slate and Feng Shuian? Ugh! Who's there? On the seats of the Rain Palace, a Void Glimpse stage pill refinement master suddenly stood up and said in surprise while looking at the ruins of the jade platform that was filled with smoke and dust. This person was the palace master of the Yang Heaven Palace. His name was Zheng He. He was a peak grade 5th revolution pill refinement master. The Yang Heaven Palace used to be under the jurisdiction of the 4th Prince of the Rain Palace. However, because Yun Tianjue had killed the 4th Prince, the Yang Heaven Palace lost its Void Fragmentation Realm Master. The reason why Zheng He came to the Giant Devil clan was not to fight for the slate. Instead, he came to look for Ning Fan. The reason why he was looking for Ning Fan was because it was rumored in the outside world that Ning Fan's pill refinement mastery could be ranked 8th in the Rain world. As a 5th revolution pill refinement master, Zheng He's senses were exceptionally sharp. He was the first one to notice the abnormality in the smoke and dust on the jade platform. On the ruins of the jade platform, the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, revealing 3 heavily injured figures. They were the three venerables. Although Venerable Sword and the others were seriously injured, they did not die under Marquis Nan Man's finger. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Why aren't the three of them dead? Some of the cultivators from the other sects asked in surprise. Look, what's that? Another cultivator noticed the change in the sky. In the sky above the jade platform, a huge golden ancient sword had appeared out of nowhere. It was unknown when the ancient sword had appeared. There were 3 people standing on the hilt of the sword. 2 women were standing on the body of the sword and a white-robed young man with cold eyes was standing on the tip of the sword. His void inquiry stage spirit sense was spread far and wide. The white-robed youth raised one hand, and in his palm, there were 3 finger forces. Those 3 finger forces were obviously shot by Marquis Nan Man to attack Venerable Sword and the others. The white-robed youth had blocked 3 finger forces from Marquis Nan Man with a single hand. His cultivation base was naturally much higher than Marquis Nan Man's. Obviously, the reason why Venerable Sword and the others did not die was because of this young man's help. Who are you? How dare you stop me from killing people? Aren't you afraid of offending 100 sects? Marquis Nan Man was about to question the young man because all the sects were present. At the next moment, his body began to tremble uncontrollably. It was because many cultivators of the internal sea around the jade platform had already recognized the identity of the newcomer. Countless exclamations resounded across the entire cold northern country. Zhou Ming. He's Zhou Ming. He's here. He actually came here. King Lan Ling, who had been keeping his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Ning Fan in disbelief. Void Inquiry Stage Aura Force. How could this ant break through to the Void Inquiry Stage in such a short time? Could it be that the rumor about him suppressing the Misthorn clan is true? When he first met Ning Fan, he was clearly just at the Divine Transformation realm. How long had it been, and now, he has already broken through to the Void Inquiry Stage? How is this possible? In the past, when the Rain Sovereign ordered King Lan Ling to teach Ning Fan a lesson, King Lan Ling disdained to act because he looked down on Ning Fan. The ant that he looked down upon had actually grown to this level. How was this possible? Outside the ruins of the jade platform, Marquis Nan Man was unable to suppress his pounding heart. His back was sweating and his hands were trembling. What? He's Zhou Ming. He asked himself, but no one answered him. Marquis Southern Man suddenly felt a sense of life and death crisis. Marquis Nan Man raised his head in fear and met Ning Fan's cold gaze. Didn't you say that I wouldn't dare to come? I'm here. Chi. Ning Fan's figure suddenly disappeared from the tip of the sword, and a feeling of fear and trepidation immediately spread through Marquis Nan Man's body. How could Marquis Nan Man not know that Ning Fan had attacked him? Moreover, Ning Fan's attack was a deadly one. Otherwise, he wouldn't be trembling like this. The southern barbarians were in a mess. Lunatic, this is a lunatic. He was bold enough to kill himself in front of the numerous sects' face. Does he want to stand up for the giant devil clan and fight against the numerous sects alone? However, Marquis Nan Man, a dignified void glimpse stage cultivator, couldn't even see Ning Fan's figure. Is this the difference between their strength like heaven and earth? Marquis Nan Man's face turned pale with fright. He hurriedly retreated while asking for help from the seat of the Scarlet Demon sect that was closest to him. He understood that it was absolutely impossible for him to survive by himself. Fellow Taoist Chi, save me. I'm willing to give you a fierce cultivation pill after this matter is over. Fierce cultivation pill. King Chi Yao, who was originally at odds with Marquis Nan Man, leaped into the air and came to his rescue with a cold smile when he heard of such benefits. He could naturally see Ning Fan's Void Inquiry Stage Aura Force, and he had also heard of Ning Fan's ferocious reputation. However, he was also a Void Inquiry Stage expert. Why would he be afraid of Ning Fan, who was also a Void Inquiry Stage expert? His traveling light was extremely fast. However, just as he was halfway through the journey, his eyes suddenly widened in shock. He saw Ning Fan's figure appear like a ghost on Marquis Nan Man's path of retreat. He then sent out a palm strike. That seemingly ordinary palm strike contained the ferocious force that could move mountains and fill seas. It was completely comparable to the attack of a body cultivator at the third level of the Golden Body Realm. No void glimpse stage cultivator could withstand it. Marquis Nan Man's face was filled with shock. However, he could not avoid the palm shadow at all and was directly hit by it. Boom! With just a single palm strike, the hollow space within 100,000 li was shattered. Devil Chi filled the air and Marquis Nan Man died with his eyes wide open, leaving not even his bones behind. Even until his death, he still could not believe that a dignified void glimpse stage cultivator like him would be instantly killed by Ning Fan. How is this possible? Even if this person is a void inquiry stage cultivator, it's impossible for him to kill a void glimpse stage cultivator with just a single slap. King Chi Yao realized that something was amiss. He wanted to return to his seat but it was already too late. Ning Fan's eyes that were filled with killing intent had already locked onto him. Trying to leave. It's too late. He raised his hand and displayed the heaven sealing technique. Countless bloodlines immediately spread out from King Chi Yao's body, freezing him in midair. Due to the difference in their cultivation bases, King Chi Yao could not move at all after being frozen. What kind of magic technique is this? Ah! Before King Chi Yao could react, Ning Fan's ghostly figure had already appeared in front of him. Ning Fan raised his hand and sent a palm strike at the top of King Chi Yao's head, wanting to turn his physical body into a mist of blood and flesh. As for King Chi Yao's primordial spirit, Ning Fan casually caught it in his hand. Without even searching his soul, he swallowed it into his stomach and chewed it to pieces. Hiss! The 1,000,000 cultivators at the scene sucked in a breath of cold air. Their hearts trembled in fear. Ning Fan actually killed 2 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row the moment he appeared. King Lan Ling's eyes widened once again. Even if it was him who killed King Chi Yao and Marquis Nan Man, he would definitely not be able to do it as easily as Ning Fan did. Impossible. This young man is just an ant. Could it be that his strength is stronger than mine? Suddenly, the voices of several Void Refinement Realm experts resounded from all directions of the Jade platform. How dare you? How dare you kill people in front of us? You're courting death. Inside the giant cage, Feng Shuyan, who was kneeling helplessly on the ground, suddenly felt a lump in her throat when she saw that her father was still alive and Ning Fan had appeared. Tears fell from her eyes. Her heart was touched. It's brother-in-law, he really came. Even if he had to go against the experts of the 100+ sects, he still came without hesitation. Why are you crying? With brother-in-law here, no one can hurt you. Rumble! Ning Fan raised his hand and shattered the giant cage with a palm strike. Then, he held Feng Shuyan with one of his hands and stood in midair. His cold eyes swept across the experts of the 100+ sects below his feet. I am here, who dares to fight me? Chapter 509. Ning Fan's cold voice spread far and wide in snow country and cold northern country. The implication of this sentence was that he was going to fight the numerous sects with his own strength. At that instant, countless cultivators fell into a state of shock. The entire place fell into dead silence. Because of Ning Fan's arrogant words and his strength of killing 2 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row, everyone's expressions changed. Su Qiuling's beautiful eyes suddenly became moist, containing an indescribable emotion. He clearly knew that there were more than 100 sects guarding this place, but he still came here in the wind and snow. The master of the Nirvana Valley stood up abruptly. His eyes were filled with indescribable shock when he looked at Ning Fan. He was a dignified body cultivator at the 2nd level of the Golden Body Refining Realm. However, just by meeting Ning Fan's gaze, he actually felt as if the golden blood in his 500+ golden orifices was going out of control. The Nirvana Valley Master had only experienced this before when he was facing a Nirvana body cultivator. The Master of the Nirvana Valley was very sure that Ning Fan's body refinement realm had definitely not broken through to the 3rd level of the Golden Body Refining Realm. However, the aura force of his body refinement realm was something even old monster Nirvana could not compare to. Ancient demon. This person is an ancient devil. When the Nirvana Valley Master's words spread out, everyone was shocked. Who would have thought that there would be an ancient devil in the current cultivation world? Not only the master of the Nirvana Valley but also the master of the Yang Heaven Palace rose to his feet abruptly and stared at Ning Fan in disbelief. When ordinary people look at him with their naked eyes and spirit sense, they would think that he was a cultivator. As for the Lord of the Yang Heaven Palace, he was a peak 5th Revolution Pill Refinement Master. When he looked at Ning Fan with his medicine soul, he only felt that Ning Fan was no longer Ning Fan but was transformed from thousands of black butterflies. Yang Tian Palace Master was shocked. Of course he knew what this meant. This meant that Ning Fan's medicine soul had transformed. It also meant that Ning Fan was a genuine 6th Revolution Pill Refinement Master. This Zhou Ming actually broke through to the 6th Revolution Pill Refinement realm. He became the 8th 6th Revolution Pill Refinement Master in the Rain Immortal world. The Yang Tian Palace Master's words shocked everyone once again. Everyone knew how powerful a 6th Revolution Pill Refinement Master was. In the Rain world, the status of a 6th Revolution Pill Refinement Master was almost comparable to a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. The Vice Sect Master of the Martial Sect stared at Ning Fan from afar. Previously, he had received a message from his sect master, Marquis Wu Mu. It mentioned that he must never offend Ning Fan. Marquis Wu Mu had an eccentric personality and loved to flaunt his seniority. However, his eyesight was extremely accurate and he did not miss anything. Marquis Wu Mu claimed that Ning Fan was a peerless devil lord. Initially, the vice sect master of the martial sect only believed half of it. However, after witnessing Ning Fan killing 2 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row, the vice sect master of the martial sect felt as if his heart was about to leap out of his throat. Ning Fan was definitely an extremely ferocious devil lord. His background, wealth, power and reputation could not move him at all. The sect leader has ordered us to immediately withdraw from the giant demon clan. We cannot offend this person. This person was now known as the #1 devil of the Internal Endless Sea. In time, this person will definitely become the #1 devil in the Rain world. The martial sect's vice sect master gave the order and the tens of thousands of cultivators in the martial sect all stood up. It was as if they were going to leave the giant demon clan. One by one, the old monsters sucked in a cold breath in disbelief. Previously, everyone was still wondering why Marquis Wu Mu had yet to arrive. Only now did they realize that Marquis Wu Mu, who had always been proud and arrogant, was actually scared out of his wits by Ning Fan and fled the Endless Sea. As for Marquis Wu Mu, who had always been an accurate judge of people, he actually gave Ning Fan such an evaluation. The current #1 devil of the Internal Endless Sea would be the #1 devil of the Rain world in the future. Ning Fan had just shown up but the martial sect was in a hurry to leave, trying to distance themselves from the 100+ sects. Is this the devil prestige of the #1 devil of the Internal Endless Sea? Oh my god! Zhou Ming is actually an ancient devil. According to the ancient records, ancient devils are the most ferocious ones. Cultivators at the same level as him are no match for him at all. A 6th Revolution Pill Master. He is actually a 6th Revolution Pill Master. Marquis Nan Man and King Qi Yao could not even withstand a single move from him. Marquis Wu Mu was even scared away by him. Is this the #1 devil of the Internal Endless Sea, Zhou Ming? Rumor has it that this person has even suppressed the Misthorn clan. I didn't believe it at first but now it seems like it's most likely true. After all, even Su Yan has become his woman. Countless cultivators' gazes shifted to Su Yan and venerated Pill who were standing on the ancient golden sword. Su Yan was a void inquiry stage expert whose name shook the entire Rain world while venerated Pill was a 6th Revolution Pill Master whose name shook the entire world. With Su Yan and venerated Pill following behind him, Ning Fan became even more formidable. For a moment, everyone had different thoughts. None of them actually dared to snatch Feng Shuyan from Ning Fan. Even Marquis Yugui and King Lan Ling, who were experienced and farsighted, did not make up their minds to attack Ning Fan first. No one is going to accept my challenge. The chilly wind and snow suddenly became even heavier. Ning Fan's eyes were cold. He landed on the ruins and put Feng Shuiyan down. Then, he scanned the surroundings. Even though he dared to challenge 100+ sects on his own, he did not underestimate their strength. Countless tall platforms and seats were built in the surroundings. Within the area of 1,000 li, there were more than 1,400,000 cultivators sitting around the jade platforms. The seats were divided into 3 classes. The main seats were only for the 11 Void Refinement Realm sects, while the second seats were for the Divine Transformation Realm forces. The last seats were mostly occupied by some rogue cultivators. Ning Fan lifted his gaze and glanced at the banners of the 11 Void Refinement Realm sections. His heart was filled with shock. Every single one of these 11 Void Refinement Realm sects was actually a famous major force in the Rain world. On the western side of the main seats were the Lan Ling sect, the Six Flames sect and the Yang Heaven Palace. There was only one Void Glimpse stage sect master from the Six Flames sect. He was none other than the serpent-eyed old man who was in charge of the arena. The Yang Heaven Palace only sent their palace master, who was a Void Refinement Realm cultivator. As for the Lan Ling sect, other than the second primordial spirit of King Lan Ling, there was actually another Void Pierce stage elder standing proudly. The Ice Mountain Sword sect, the Wonderful Sound Valley, and the Xiankong Temple were seated in the main seats on the north side. They were all veteran forces of the Rain world. The sect masters of the 3 sects were all Void Inquiry stage experts. Moreover, all of them had cultivated to the unrivaled Void Inquiry stage. Each of them was not much weaker than Ning Fan. The Martial sect, the Barbarian Dao sect, the Scarlet Demon sect and the Nirvana Valley were the 4 great Void Refinement Realm forces. Due to the tragic deaths of Marquis Southern Man and King Scarlet Demon, the Barbarian Dao sect and Scarlet Demon sect were like a group of dragons without a leader. The Martial sect, on the other hand, already had the intention to retreat. The only thing they needed to pay attention to was the Nirvana Valley. It actually managed to recognize Ning Fan's ancient devil strength with just a single glance. This was rather unusual. There was only one force sitting at the first seat in the east, but it was the most powerful force among the 11 sections. It was the Ghost Eye clan. There were 8 Void Refinement Realm experts standing behind Marquis Yugui. 6 of them were Void Glimpse stage experts, while 2 of them were Void Inquiry stage experts. As for Marquis Yugui's aura force, it had actually surpassed the Void Pierce stage and reached the Absolute Void stage. Ning Fan still remembered that when he sneaked into the Ghost Eye clan that day, Marquis Yugui was still at the Void Pierce stage. Needless to say, Marquis Yugui must have devoured his 9 Void Glimpse stage clones in order to recover his Absolute Void stage cultivation base. Since the other party had an Absolute Void stage expert, it would probably be a little dangerous for him to fight against the 100+ sects today. Ning Fan's cultivation base was only at the mid-Reckless Devil realm. Even though he was invincible among Void Inquiry stage experts, it would be difficult for him to fight against Void Pierce stage experts, let alone Absolute Void stage old monsters. The 11 Void Refinement Realm sects were filled with experts. There were also more than 100 Divine Transformation Realm sects spying on him from all directions. There were millions of cultivators surrounding him. In the dark, there were also the 8 ancestors of the Giant Devil clan who were watching him coldly from the sidelines. It was unknown when they would shoot arrows at him. The only thing that made Ning Fan feel fortunate was that the Zhou clan of the Internal Sea did not participate in the oppression of the Giant Devil clan. Ning Fan's eyes flickered. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to fight against the 100+ sects by himself. Even if he had 18 Void Fragmentation Realm attacks and Luo Yu's help, he might not necessarily be able to escape unscathed. That Marquis Yugui was also a Void Fragmentation Realm expert before he was injured. The true body of that Prince Lan Ling was also an expert who was about to break through to the Void Fragmentation Realm. How could he know that the 2 of them did not have a Void Fragmentation Realm attack to protect themselves? Ning Fan had never calculated the risks involved in helping the giant devil clan this time. He was also too lazy to do so. So what if there are more enemies? How could he retreat? Could it be that he had to hand Feng Shuiyan over to the 100+ sects? He could not do it. I want to protect her. He handed Feng Shuiyan to the 3 venerated beings and ordered them to bring her away. They met up with Su Qiuling and the other women. Venerated Pil, Su Yan, Ming Ke, and the others were in charge of protecting Feng Shuiyan. Ning Fan made a grabbing motion with his 5 fingers. All of a sudden, the jade platform that had collapsed into ruins was rebuilt. Standing alone on the 10,000 zhang tall jade platform, Ning Fan was bathed in the wind and snow. He scanned the experts of the world with his eyes. He could forgive those who retreated in advance like the martial sect. However, he would not spare any of those who were stubborn enough to harm Feng Shuiyan. Even if he has to massacre the 100+ sects today, even if he has to flatten the giant devil clan today, he would still protect Feng Shuiyan. Tears welled up in Feng Shuiyan's eyes again. When her kin had given up on her, Ning Fan was the only one who defied the world and swore to protect her. Tens of thousands of cultivators of the martial sect hurriedly retreated from this troublesome place. However, there were still more than 100 sects in this place. Even though they were afraid of Ning Fan, they wanted to use their numbers to pressure him and force him to give up on Feng Shuiyan. A single sect might not have the courage to offend Ning Fan. He was an ancient devil and a 6th revolution pill refinement master. Ordinary people would not be willing to offend Ning Fan. However, humans die in pursuit of wealth and birds die in pursuit of food. According to rumors, if one obtains Feng Shuiyan and the devil statue's slate and decipher the ancient scripture of the slate, they would obtain tremendous power. For this reason alone, no matter how afraid they were of Ning Fan, they were not willing to let go of this opportunity to seize the treasures. Zhou Ming. Your means are not weak. However, with your strength alone, you won't be able to resist the forces of 100 sections. Do you understand? The forces of 100 sects almost include 1/3 of the top forces in the Rain world. If you go against us, it means you are going against the entire Rain world. I heard that the Rain Sovereign has given an order that no one is allowed to hurt you. However, this time, you provoked us first. If you still don't know what's good for you, don't blame us for killing you mercilessly. Noisy. Ning Fan suddenly flicked his sleeve and a blood-red paper umbrella appeared in his hand. As soon as he opened the umbrella, an island suddenly fell from the sky. It was actually taken out from the umbrella. It covered the entire sky and was going to crush half of the cold northern country. When the umbrella closed, hundreds of nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm cultivators who provoked Ning Fan were all sucked into the umbrella by the faint red halo of spirit wheels. Then, Ning Fan shook the umbrella again. The surface of the umbrella was covered with pus and blood. All of them were the blood of the cultivators who were sucked into the umbrella. This umbrella is really powerful. It only takes a moment to kill a nascent soul realm and divine transformation realm cultivator. As for the entire island, it covered the entire sky and fell from the sky, shocking millions of cultivators. This island was nearly half the size of the cold northern country. If it falls from the sky, half of the island would be sunk. Some cultivators of the internal sea even recognized that the island that Ning Fan casually threw out was actually the Pill Island. Of course, Ning Fan did not expect to smash them with the island. With so many Void Refinement Realm cultivators present, such a trick would not work. We can't let this island fall. Otherwise, countless cultivators of our 100+ sects will die. My fellow Void Refinement Realm cultivators, let's use our levitation technique to make this island float in the sky. Alright. Let's do it together. The Void Refinement Realm experts of each sect including Marquis Yu Guiho soared into the sky with gloomy expressions. They used their levitation technique to prevent the Pill Island from falling. Thus, the island floated 10,000 zhang above the sky of the cold northern country. However, these Void Refinement Realm cultivators could not believe that Ning Fan's Blood Umbrella magic treasure was actually so powerful that it could casually take away an island and throw it down from the sky. Fortunately, the Pill Island did not fall. Otherwise, there would definitely be countless casualties. Countless low-grade cultivators of the sects broke out in cold sweat. Luckily, the Pill Island did not fall. Otherwise, they would certainly die. As for the cultivators of the Giant Devil clan, they were also terrified. Each of the cultivators of the 100-plus sects looked at Ning Fan with indescribable fear in their eyes. He was a madman. A madman who dared to smash an island with his own island. Some of them also noticed that the blood umbrella that Ning Fan was holding was a small Kiliacosm Cosmos treasure. Moreover, the destructive power of this Cosmos treasure was far beyond ordinary Cosmos treasures. Today, all the cultivators of the 100-plus sects have witnessed that Zhou Ming treats our 100-plus sects as nothing. How arrogant! As the second elder of the Ghost Eye clan, I might have to teach this Zhou Ming a lesson. ZZZ, a Void Inquiry Stage old expert of the Ghost Eye clan, flew up to the jade platform. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His white hair fluttered in the wind and his aura was extraordinary. The old man smiled coldly at Ning Fan. All of a sudden, he raised one of his palms and a green ghost eye appeared on his palm. All of a sudden, endless green lightning arcs shot out from the ghost eye. Millions of green lightning arcs turned into a sea of lightning. The old man stood in the middle of the sea of lightning like an emperor of lightning. It's the second elder of the Ghost Eye clan, Yin Lei. This person's lightning technique has reached perfection. It is said that he has even cultivated his primordial spirit into the form of lightning. He rarely has a match among the Void Inquiry Stage experts. He is a few times stronger than King Qiyao. That Zhou Ming's abilities are heaven-defying. However, he is just a Void Inquiry Stage cultivator after all. How can he be a match for Elder Yin Lei? Countless cultivators in the Ghost Eye clan immediately raised their arms and shouted. Zhou Ming, if you retreat now, I will spare your life. Otherwise, I will make you fly back to the world and perish. Elder Yin Lei sneered. However, he was secretly making hand seals under his sleeves. Without any warning, the hollow space on Ning Fan's back suddenly shattered. Countless dark green lightning snakes darted out and bit Ning Fan's back with their mouths wide open. While Yin Lei was conversing with Ning Fan, he actually launched a sneak attack. Although Yin Lei said that he would stand up for the 100-plus sects, he was actually eyeing Ning Fan's blood umbrella magic treasure and wanted to kill Ning Fan and seize his treasure. Break! The void lightning star on Ning Fan's glabella flashed and a massive blood-red lightning diagram appeared under his feet. When he stomped on the ground shook. Wind and snow rolled against the heavens and the lightning snakes behind him were shattered. A vast lightning aura force spread out from Ning Fan's body. It was unstoppable. Yin Lei, who was in the depths of the green lightning sea, suddenly had a drastic change of expression. The green lightning sea under his feet was completely shattered by Ning Fan's aura force. Originally, Elder Yin Lei, who was standing in the middle of the lightning sea, was like the Emperor of Lightning in everyone's eyes. However, in front of Ning Fan's lightning diagram, Yin Lei's lightning magic power actually became sluggish and it was difficult for him to mobilize it. Yin Lei's eyes widened in shock. Even Thunder Sovereign Bu Zhou could not shatter his lightning sea with just a sentence. He repeatedly made hand seals and summoned a flying sword that was formed from lightning with great difficulty. Then, he saw Ning Fan walking towards Yin Lei step by step while stepping on the lightning diagram. With one step, all lightning was destroyed and the lightning sword was shattered. With 3 steps, Yin Lei was forced to retreat while coughing out blood. With 9 steps, Yin Lei suddenly felt a sharp pain in his dantian. His lightning primordial spirit was forcefully shattered into 2 halves. Puff! Yin Lei coughed out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. All of his lightning techniques, including his lightning primordial spirit, were completely suppressed in front of Ning Fan. With 10 steps, the 8 black burning wings suddenly appeared on Ning Fan's back. His figure disappeared in an instant. Yin Lei turned around and tried to flee. However, as soon as he turned around, he ran into Ning Fan, who was approaching him like a ghost. "I'm going to fight you to the death." Yin Lei stabbed his fingers into his eyes and dug them out. Blood flowed like a fountain. After destroying his eyes, a vast aura force was added to Yin Lei's body. It was almost as strong as an unrivaled void inquiry stage cultivator. The two eyeballs in his hands seemed to have turned into supreme magic treasures. Yin Lei's spirit sense locked onto Ning Fan. He raised his hand and summoned the eyeballs. Darkness suddenly fell on the jade platform, covering it completely. This darkness could block all vision and spirit sense. Yin Lei immediately fled. "Where do you think you're going?" Ning Fan's left eye was Fuli and his right eye was Imoluo. Besides, he also had a human eye on his glabella. How could he be blinded by Yin Lei's petty tricks? After confirming the direction Yin Lei was fleeing in, Ning Fan flapped his 8 wings and caught up to Yin Lei's back in an instant. He raised his hand and slammed it down on Yin Lei's heavenly spirit. Boom! After a loud bang, the darkness on the jade platform gradually dispersed. The wind and snow gradually calmed down. In the tranquil wind and snow, Ning Fan stepped on Yin Lei's corpse. He grabbed Yin Lei's primordial spirit and swallowed it in one gulp. Then, his cold eyes swept across the Ghost Eye clan. This time, he had completely offended the Ghost Eye clan. However, so what if he offended them? "You're courting death." Marquis Yugui was enraged. He leaped into the air and his body was shrouded in dense Yin Qi. His vast aura force swept towards Ning Fan. He was actually going to attack Ning Fan out of anger. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light. All of a sudden, he took out a jade slip. The jade slip was destroyed. A powerful magic attack accompanied by the chanting of countless devil scriptures blasted towards Marquis Yugui, who was charging towards him. As soon as Marquis Yugui, who was initially arrogant, saw the attack from the jade slip, his expression changed drastically. His scalp went numb and he turned around to flee. How could he still care about attacking Ning Fan? The only thing he could do now was to run for his life. Countless cultivators were shocked when they saw Ning Fan taking out the jade slip. Each of the old monsters stared at Ning Fan with eyes filled with fear and confusion. A Void Fragmentation Realm Strike. Chapter 510. As soon as Marquis Yugui saw Ning Fan throw out a Void Fragmentation Realm attack, he turned around and fled without hesitation. His usual gloomy expression was now filled with shock. Even if he was an absolute Void Stage old monster, it was absolutely impossible for him to receive that Void Fragmentation Realm attack unscathed. What the hell? This young man is obviously just a Void Inquiry Stage cultivator. Why does he have a Void Fragmentation Realm attack to protect himself? Marquis Yugui's traveling light was extremely fast, but that Void Fragmentation Realm attack was even faster. This attack from the Jade Slip was left behind by the 9th generation ancestor of the Misthorn clan. It was an ancient devil ability of the wind and wood elements. The magic technique manifested the shadow of a green giant. The giant was 1,000,000 zhang tall and had thousands of arms. At the same time, it strangely performed hand seals at the same time. All of a sudden, the wind and snow seemed to have stopped and stopped falling. The chanting of the devil scripture in all directions also stopped abruptly. At this moment, the shadow of the giant shouted. At the same time, Marquis Yugui felt a great sense of danger. Not good. The hollow space around Marquis Yugui was completely sealed in an instant. That kind of seal was different from the heaven sealing technique, as it sealed the entire hollow space. Above the snowy sky, countless green wind dragons appeared all of a sudden. They coiled around Marquis Yugui's body and immediately turned into an ocean of astral winds. Heavenly Wrath Mist Dragon. Chi. 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 The sound of countless wind blades cutting flesh resounded from the ocean of astral winds. Along with the sound of these wind blades, Marquis Yugui's groans could be heard from time to time. All the cultivators of the 100+ sects around the Jade platform were dumbfounded. They originally thought that Marquis Yugue's powerful attack was enough to kill Ning Fan. However, they did not expect that Ning Fan could actually use a Void Fragmentation Realm attack to force Marquis Yugue, who was at the absolute Void stage, into a dangerous situation. The fluctuation of a Void Fragmentation Realm attack shook the entire cold northern country and the sea region within millions of li. Most of the cultivators had never seen such a terrifying magic technique fluctuation in their lives. Is this the power of a Void Fragmentation Realm attack? It's really terrifying. Countless old monsters trembled. If they were the ones who were attacked by a Void Fragmentation Realm attack, none of them would be able to survive. They wondered if Marquis Yugue could withstand this attack. Silly little brother, aren't you afraid of exposing your trump card by making such a forceful move? You are still very carefree even without my protection, Luo Yu teased in her mind. This is the perfect time to use a Void Fragmentation Realm attack. However, Ning Fan's eyes were fixed on the collapsing sky in the distance. He stared at the shadow of the giant and the ocean of astral winds that was gradually disappearing. He frowned. He faintly felt that this Void Fragmentation Realm strike was not enough to kill Marquis Yugue. Sure enough, when the astral winds finally dissipated, Marquis Yugue appeared in the sky covered in blood. His eyes were still filled with lingering fear. Sure enough, he did not die. Discussions immediately broke out everywhere. Oh my god! That was a Void Fragmentation Realm attack. Marquis Yugue could actually withstand such a powerful attack. Shoo! He is Marquis Yugue. Before he was injured, he was already a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. It's not strange for him to be able to withstand a Void Fragmentation Realm attack. However, judging from his injuries, it won't be easy for him to withstand that attack. Look, isn't Marquis Yugue wearing a spiritual armor? It can even resist a Void Fragmentation Realm attack. This spiritual equipment is definitely of the profound divinity grade. However, this Zhou Ming is really too scary. He could casually throw out a Void Fragmentation Realm attack. Only an absolute Void stage expert like Marquis Yugue can withstand such an attack. We definitely won't be able to withstand it. At this moment, Marquis Yugue was wearing an armor that was as blue as water on his chest. This armor was a low-grade profound divinity spiritual equipment called the Heavenly Ghost Armor. It was refined by Marquis Yugue when he was a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. Its defensive power was extremely shocking. However, even though the Heavenly Ghost Armor was a profound divinity grade armor, it was still cracked by that Void Fragmentation Realm attack. If it wasn't for this armor, Ning Fan would definitely be able to severely injure Marquis Yugue with a single strike. At this moment, even though Marquis Yugue was injured, his injuries were not fatal. What a sturdy armor! Ning Fan frowned. Unbeknownst to him, when Marquis Yugue found out that the Heavenly Ghost Armor was cracked by Ning Fan's attack, he was extremely furious. The rage he felt was much stronger than when he witnessed the tragic death of Elder Yin Lei. Zhou Ming, how dare you damage my Heavenly Ghost Armor? How dare you damage my Heavenly Ghost Armor? Marquis Yugue was enraged. He suddenly formed a hand seal and countless void cracks appeared between heaven and earth, turning into tens of thousands of void ghost eyes. He was certain that it was impossible for Ning Fan to have a second Void Fragmentation Realm Jade slip. Thus, he naturally dared to kill Ning Fan. Each of the void ghost eyes contained a sword light that was filled with dense ghost chi. 100,000 void ghost eyes and 100,000 void sword lights were the technique that made Marquis Yugue famous when he was a Void Fragmentation Realm expert, the Little Void Sword. Unfortunately, this technique did not even have a tenth of its original power. If it was in the past, Marquis Yugue could at least create 1 million ghost eyes. Little Void Sword. This Zhou Ming is definitely going to die. Even if my true body comes here, it will be difficult for me to withstand this technique. Unless he has a second Void Fragmentation Realm Jade slip. But, that's impossible. The creation of each Void Fragmentation Realm Jade slip requires a great amount of energy from a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. My Void Fragmentation Realm Jade slip was probably picked up by luck. As for him, the chances of him finding a second void fragmentation realm jade slip is close to zero. King Lanling withdrew his initial astonished expression and revealed a disdainful look towards Ning Fan again. All the cultivators of the 100-plus sects including King Lanling firmly believed that Ning Fan would not have a second void fragmentation realm jade slip. As long as Ning Fan does not have a second void fragmentation realm jade slip, he certainly would not be able to withstand a single attack from Marquis Yugue with his void inquiry stage cultivation base. This was an indisputable fact. Since you damaged my heavenly ghost armor, I will make you pay with your life. Void technique, little void sword. At the moment Marquis Yugue changed his hand seal, the 100,000 ghost eyes shot out rays of void sword light. Ghost chi covered the entire sky. In the face of the 100,000 void sword light, Ning Fan's eyes remained calm. He raised his hand and took out the second jade slip and crushed it. Ning Fan knew that his current cultivation base was far from enough to withstand a single attack from Marquis Yugue. The only thing he could rely on was external items. It was not shameful at all. Being able to obtain a void fragmentation realm jade slip was also considered his capability. At the moment the jade slip was crushed, the aura force of a void fragmentation realm attack swept across millions of li, causing all the cultivators to be so shocked that they could not utter a single word. How is this possible? You actually have a second void fragmentation realm jade slip? Marquis Yugue let out a roar of disbelief. His body was originally injured. In the past, he was injured by the Thunder Sovereign, causing his cultivation base to fall to the void fragmentation realm. Even after tens of thousands of years, he had yet to recover from his injuries. Now that he had finally recovered his cultivation base to the absolute void stage, Marquis Yugue only wished to return to the void fragmentation realm as soon as possible. Even though he had suffered an attack from Ning Fan, he still had the heavenly ghost armor to protect his body. Thus, the damage from that attack was still within a bearable range. However, if he is injured by Ning Fan again, his foundation would probably be damaged. Even though he would not die, the time it would take for him to recover to the void fragmentation realm would be extended indefinitely. Fortunately, under normal circumstances, the chances of Ning Fan possessing two void fragmentation realm jade slips at the same time was close to zero. There was absolutely no chance for him to injure Marquis Yugue a second time. However, how could Marquis Yugue imagine that Ning Fan actually had a second void fragmentation realm jade slip? As soon as the jade slip was crushed, the shadow of a giant appeared in the vast sky once again. However, this time, the shadow of the giant was fiery red. This jade slip was left behind by the 15th generation ancestor of the Misthorn clan. That ancestor was most proficient in fire element abilities. Chants of devil scriptures could be heard from all directions. That fiery red giant suddenly stared at Marquis Yugue coldly and lifted his hand to point a finger. Heaven and earth furnace. As the giant pointed his finger, countless flames emerged out of thin air with Marquis Yugue as the center. The vast sky within 10,000 li was engulfed by the flames and turned into a gigantic dark red furnace, trapping Marquis Yugue and the 100,000 ghost eyes within it. The 100,000 ghost eyes were all incinerated. The 100,000 sword lights were all incinerated. More and more cracks appeared on the heavenly ghost armor. Marquis Yugue could no longer withstand the heat of the furnace and let out a heart-wrenching cry. How could this be? He's just an ant. How could he have two void fragmentation realm jade slips? How is this possible? King Lanling slammed the table and rose to his feet in disbelief. The group of cultivators from the 100-plus sects kept quiet out of fear. They could not imagine what kind of attack Marquis Yugue had just received that made him let out such a miserable cry. Eventually, the shadow of the fiery red giant disappeared. The furnace also disappeared. All the flames in heaven and earth vanished as if they had never existed in the first place. Snowflakes were still falling from the sky. Marquis Yugue was still alive thanks to the protection of the heavenly ghost armor. However, his injuries had worsened and it had already damaged his foundation. Moreover, more and more cracks appeared on the armor. It was unknown when it would break. If he suffers a third void fragmentation realm attack, his heavenly ghost armor would certainly break and it would be difficult for him to escape the fate of suffering severe injuries. However, Marquis Yugui did not believe that Ning Fan could have a third void fragmentation realm jade slip no matter what. A mere void inquiry stage ant actually dares to go against me. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Marquis Yugui's eyes were blood red. He performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers and displayed a secret technique. His stooped body that was originally like black mist suddenly grew taller, turning into a giant that was 8,000 zhang tall. The giant did not have any organs such as mouth and nose. However, its body was covered with strange eyeballs. It was unknown how many of them there were. Each of the eyeballs had a mysterious magatama pattern. Ning Fan only took a glance at the giant eyeball and he immediately felt dizzy, as if he had sunk into a never-ending illusion technique. It was an extremely terrifying illusion technique. It was obviously an illusory thing, but the illusory attacks it created were as real as if they were real. This technique actually had a trace of the profound meaning of truth. If this illusion technique becomes real, Ning Fan would not be able to see through this level of illusion technique even if he had the demon eyes and devil eyes. King Lan Ling's eyes were filled with deep fear. As far as he knew, this technique was Marquis Yugui's strongest technique in the past. Even the Rain Sovereign in the past could not break this illusion technique of his. Zhou Ming. Zhou Ming. Zhou Ming. You've hurt my foundation and damaged my heavenly ghost armor. I will fight you to the death. True Hell Technique. Roar.at. The moment the giant eyeball made a hand seal, countless rays of dark light shot out from his ghost eyes. Countless Azura devils appeared in the sky out of nowhere. All of them were formed by the power of the void. Amidst the ghostly roars, the power of the void turned into a gigantic devil which stomped on Ning Fan's head. Just the sole of that devil's foot was as large as the entire cold northern country. The force of that stomp was infinitely close to a void fragmentation realm attack. Ning Fan was slightly shocked. This devil was clearly an illusion created by the illusion technique. However, by borrowing a trace of true power, it actually turned the void into reality, turning an illusion that could not harm anyone into the most terrifying killing weapon. In the past, Marquis Yugui must have been a void fragmentation realm expert whose name shook the world. This technique was definitely heaven-defying. Even so, it was impossible for Ning Fan to yield to Marquis Yugui. He took a deep breath and patted his storage pouch. He took out the third void fragmentation realm jade slip and crushed it. All of a sudden, the 1 million cultivators stood up in shock. They could not believe what they saw at all. King Lan Ling, who was calm and composed, was now filled with shock. As for Marquis Yugui, who had turned into an eyeball giant, he gritted his teeth in hatred when he saw Ning Fan's action and let out an unwilling roar. You actually have a third void fragmentation realm jade slip. How is this possible? Chapter 511. The third jade slip was left behind by the 31st generation ancestor of the Misthorn clan. That ancestor was most proficient in ice magic techniques. As soon as the jade slip was broken, the shadow of an ice giant suddenly appeared in the sky. The snowflakes that were falling from the northern Liang country were frozen in the void. The aura of the giant was as cold as ice. The 1,400,000 cultivators in the hall felt a chill that made their hearts palpitate. The giant pointed at the sky. Countless ice crystals suddenly appeared in the sky and condensed into a 10,000 zhang large throne. Cold Ice Throne. Amidst the chanting of countless devil scriptures, the giant suddenly roared and the throne fell from the sky. Wherever it fell, the void was frozen. The eyes of the giant, who was Marquis Yugui, were shocked. He wanted to avoid the throne, but he realized that his feet had already been frozen. He could not move at all. Making up his mind, Marquis Yugui suddenly performed a hand seal. Black blood flowed out from the countless eyeballs on the giant's body and they closed. Every time an eyeball closed, Marquis Yugui's injuries would worsen. However, his aura force would also increase a little. When all the eyeballs were closed, Marquis Yugui was already severely injured. However, his aura force was infinitely close to the void fragmentation realm. He activated all of his magic power and threw a punch at the throne of the sky. True Hell Fist. Boom! This punch was infinitely close to the void fragmentation realm. Countless cracks appeared on the ice throne and it was knocked back to the sky with a loud bang. However, the moment the fist light came into contact with the throne, Marquis Yugui realized that even his fists had been frozen. His dermic powers were about to freeze under the impact of the falling throne. The ice giant shouted coldly. The ice throne that was sent flying by Marquis Yugui pressed down once again. Not good. Marquis Yugui, whose limbs were frozen, did not expect that the throne would have a follow-up attack. It was already too late for him to block it. With a miserable shriek, Marquis Yugui's entire body turned into ice. With him as the center, the ice spread out. The sky within 1,000,000 li was filled with cold chi and it was almost frozen. The shadow of the ice giant gradually dissipated. The frozen heaven and earth also gradually disappeared as if it had never existed in the first place. Within the cold mist, Marquis Yugui appeared while panting heavily. His beard and hair were covered with ice shards. His chi was extremely weak and his injuries were extremely severe. His heavenly ghost armor had been completely shattered. However, he was still alive. Zhou Ming, if this old man doesn't die, I'll definitely annihilate your entire clan and tear you into 1,000 pieces. Marquis Yugui let out a furious roar. He had long since tossed the warning of the Pill's sovereign to the back of his mind. He wanted to kill Ning Fan at all costs. Ning Fan and Marquis Yugui Ho confronted each other again. However, this time, none of the cultivators of the 100+ sects dared to say that Marquis Yugui Ho would definitely win. Perhaps, Ning Fan still has a fourth void fragmentation jade slip. This thought rose in the minds of countless cultivators. Even though they knew that the possibility of this happening was minuscule, anything that was impossible could happen to Ning Fan. After witnessing Ning Fan injuring Marquis Yugui thrice, King Lanling had already regarded Ning Fan as his greatest enemy. At this moment, Ning Fan was just too dazzling. Suppressing the absolute void stage with just his void inquiry stage cultivation base made King Lanling's radiance dim. King Lanling could not tolerate Ning Fan overshadowing him. However, he was also worried that Ning Fan had the fourth void fragmentation realm jade slip. Thus, he did not dare to jump out and make things difficult for Ning Fan. It was not just King Lanling. After witnessing Ning Fan overpowering Marquis Yugui, none of the cultivators of the 100+ sects present dared to fight Ning Fan alone. The wind and snow were still chilly. Marquis Yugui's eyes were filled with madness. He absolutely did not believe that Ning Fan still had the fourth void fragmentation realm jade slip. Just like a gambler, the more he loses, the more he would want to gamble. The more arrogant a person was, the more he would be unwilling to admit defeat and the easier it was for him to lose everything. Marquis Yugui patted his storage pouch and took out a soul streamer which was filled with ghostly chi. This streamer contained 800 million souls. There were mortals and cultivators. Soul streamers were the most vicious magic treasures. They were used to kill people and seize their souls. The more souls it killed, the stronger the power of the soul streamer would be. The power of an 800 million soul streamer was comparable to an immortal void treasure. This was a magic treasure that Marquis Yugui had spent tens of thousands of years to refine. However, it was still incomplete. Initially, he wanted to use this streamer to take revenge on the Thunder's sovereign after refining 1 billion souls. Today, however, he hated Ning Fan for damaging his foundation and destroying his heavenly ghost armor. Thus, he wanted to use this soul streamer to kill Ning Fan at all costs. What a powerful soul streamer! It contains at least 800 million souls. Even though this streamer has yet to be completely refined, Marquis Yugui is almost invincible below the void fragmentation realm with just this streamer. Even if Zhou Ming still has a void fragmentation realm attack, he might not necessarily be able to defeat Marquis Yugui. That old thing, Marquis Yugui, actually hid his strength so deeply. However, this soul streamer has yet to be completely refined. If I use it rashly, it will be easily destroyed. It's really unwise for Marquis Yugui to use this treasure in a fit of rage. King Lan Ling's eyes were filled with uncertainty. Seeing that Marquis Yugui actually used the 800 million soul streamer, Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. This soul streamer was extremely powerful. Its destructive power was probably above that of ordinary void fragmentation realm jade slips. He still had 14 jade slips and talismans that could destroy the void fragmentation realm. However, none of them could destroy the soul streamer. If that's the case, I have to use the jade slips that could destroy the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan made up his mind. He patted his storage pouch and took out the fourth void fragmentation realm jade slip. All of a sudden, exclamations filled the surroundings. What? This Zhou Ming really has the fourth void fragmentation realm jade slip. Oh my god. How many void fragmentation realm jade slips does this person have? How heaven-defying his luck must be to possess so many jade slips. However, Marquis Yugui's 800 million soul streamer is extremely powerful. For instance, the destructive power of the 3 void fragmentation realm jade slips earlier was only equivalent to the attack of a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert. It's difficult for them to go against the 800 million soul streamer. This time, Zhou Ming won't be able to hurt Marquis Yugui. Marquis Yugui's eyes were blood red. He could not wait to kill Ning Fan. With a sudden wave of the soul banner, countless evil ghosts flew out from it. The land of hundreds of thousands of li was completely covered by the black mass of ghosts. In the sky, there were a total of 800 million ghosts, but none of them had the chi of a vein-opening realm cultivator. The ghosts devoured each other. In the blink of an eye, the 800 million ghosts were reduced to 100 million, but all of their chi had risen to the harmonious spirit realm. The 100 million ghosts devoured each other, and in the blink of an eye, there were only 30 million ghosts left, but all of them had the aura of a gold core. The devouring continued. When there were only 1 million ghosts left, the aura of all the ghosts had reached the nascent soul realm. When there were only 10,000 ghosts left, all of them had reached the soul formation stage. After the 10,000 soul formation realm ghosts were devoured, they eventually turned into 100 void refinement realm evil ghosts which looked ferocious and terrifying. These 100 void refinement realm evil ghosts continued to devour each other. Eventually, there was only one evil ghost left. It was 10,000 zhang tall and stood in the sky with a single eye. However, the magic power and chi of this one-eyed evil ghost had already reached the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. A void fragmentation realm soul. This 800 million soul banner can actually condense a void fragmentation realm soul. The 1.4 million cultivators of the 150,000 sects were shocked. Those below the vein opening realm were all mortals while those below the void fragmentation realm were all ants. Even though there was only a step between the absolute void realm and the void fragmentation realm, once a cultivator breaks through to the void fragmentation realm, he would never lose to any void refinement realm cultivator. As for the soul of the one-eyed evil ghost that stood in the sky, just a trace of its aura could make everyone shudder. It was none other than the aura force of the void fragmentation realm. Using 800 million souls to condense a void fragmentation realm evil ghost. This Marquis Yugui really has a heaven-defying method. Die! Marquis Yugui burst into laughter. With a wave of his soul banner, the one-eyed evil ghost immediately let out a ghastly roar and lifted its foot to stomp on Ning Fan. The force of that stomp was equivalent to a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm attack. Moreover, the destructive power of the fragmentation realm attack was slightly stronger than that of the jade slips. Break! Ning Fan's eyes were calm. He crushed the fourth void fragmentation realm jade slip. No one believed that this void fragmentation realm jade slip could resist a void fragmentation realm evil ghost. However, the moment Ning Fan crushed the jade slip, Marquis Yugui, who was laughing maniacally, was nearly scared to death. This isn't the destructive power of a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert. This is the second heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Boom! As the two jade slips were crushed, a gigantic shadow suddenly appeared in front of Ning Fan. It raised its hand and pointed at the one-eyed evil ghost. That seemingly casual finger attack contained unimaginable power. The one-eyed evil ghost suffered a heavy blow and was immediately sent flying like a kite with a broken string. It was actually injured by that gigantic shadow's finger attack. What? What is this? Countless old monsters stared at the shadow that Ning Fan summoned with fear and trepidation. Su Yan, who was protecting Feng Shuiyan and the other women at the side, suddenly had an urge to cry when she raised her head and saw the shadow in the sky. It was an indescribable feeling of being connected by blood. The gigantic shadow in the sky was a giant that was several million zhang tall. He was wearing devil armor and had 2 devil horns on his head. His facial features could not be seen clearly. He was sitting on a throne. Behind the devil horn giant, there were still several 100 zhang tall giants who seemed to be his servants. A wave of ancient devil chi filled the air with sorrow. In front of these giants, the one-eyed evil ghost that was 10,000 zhang tall was as tiny as a flying insect. This is our ancestor. It's the shadow of the ancestor of my Mist Horn clan. This jade slip was actually left behind by our ancestor. Su Yan's bloodline throbbed. Mist Horn, the voice of the giant on the throne was shaky. He glanced at Ning Fan, who was at the side. As he did not have a face, he could not see his emotions clearly. However, Ning Fan could guess that the reason why the giant was looking at him was because he wanted to see who was the one who used his jade slip to attack him. When he sensed the Mo Luo ancestral talisman in Ning Fan's body, the giant's body visibly trembled. Then, he was filled with respect towards Ning Fan. When the giant on the throne glanced at Marquis Yugui and the one-eyed giant, Ning Fan could feel that the giant on the throne was certainly disdainful towards Marquis Yugui, even though he could not see their expressions clearly. Marquis Yugui, who had always thought highly of himself, actually felt small and insignificant in front of the giant's shadow. Before he could figure out the origin of the giant on the throne had already acted according to Ning Fan's will and pointed a finger at Marquis Yugui. As soon as the finger pressed down, devil chi filled the sky. As the finger pressed down, the entire internal sea began to shake. This kind of great ability was beyond the imagination of the people in the world. The one-eyed evil ghost had a void fragmentation realm chi. Under the finger of the giant on the throne, it was instantly turned into a pile of blood and flesh. Marquis Yugui's face was filled with shock. The moment he faced the finger of the giant, he felt as if all of his magic power was burning into nothingness. This is the void finger of the ancestor of the Mist Horn clan. It's a great ability that can turn one's life and cultivation base into nothingness. If it's an ordinary jade slip of the second fragmentation realm, it would still be fine. However, this is the jade slip of the ancestor of the Mist Horn clan. Even though it's only at the second fragmentation realm, its destructive power is far beyond that of an ordinary second fragmentation realm. With this old man's strength alone, I definitely can't block it. Marquis Yugui glanced at Ning Fan in a panic. It was the first time he felt fear towards this young man. He could not imagine that Ning Fan was actually able to get his hands on the offensive jade slip of the Mist Horn tribe's progenitor. Moreover, the ability of this jade slip was actually the strongest technique of the Mist Horn tribe's progenitor, the Void Finger. He couldn't block it. He would die. No. I can't accept this, I can't accept this. Marquis Yugui took out secret treasures one after another from his storage pouch. All of them were for revenge against the Thunder Sovereign. But at this moment, in order to save his life, he couldn't care less about his grudges. He threw everything into the sky. Countless secret treasures went up against the giant's finger, but they were all turned into nothingness under the power of the finger. Every time Marquis Yugui lost a secret treasure, he would cough out a mouthful of blood. These secret treasures were related to his life. Each of these secret treasures was enough to strike fear into the hearts of great void cultivators, and some of them were enough to make first realm cultivators drool. However, no matter how many artifacts were destroyed, they could only slow down the speed of the giant finger. They could not resist the void finger. I can't accept this. He couldn't accept this. Ah! In just an instant, the giant finger pressed down, turning the insufferably arrogant Marquis Yugui into nothingness. His scream was extremely terrifying. A chill filled the hearts of the cultivators of the 100-plus sects. Ning Fan used 4 Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slips to kill Marquis Yugui. His action was just too crazy. He was a great Void Stage cultivator after all. He actually died just like that. On the seats of the Ghost Eye clan, all the cultivators, regardless of their cultivation bases, felt an impending disaster. Marquis Yugui had acted willfully and disobeyed the Pill Sovereign's order by attacking Ning Fan. He had already committed a great crime. Now that Marquis Yugui was dead, was there anyone else in the Ghost Eye clan who could fight against Ning Fan? The destruction of the Ghost Eye clan was imminent. There were 6 Void Glimpse stage cultivators and 1 Void Inquiry stage cultivator. When they thought of how crazy Ning Fan was when he took out the Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slips, all of them broke out in cold sweat. How could they resist that kind of crazy devil? I must run. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. He had already killed Marquis Yugui. He must eliminate the root of the problem. There were a total of 100,000 members of the Ghost Eye clan who came this time. However, as Ning Fan scanned them with his sword sense, Divine Transformation Realm cultivators with their cultivation bases could not withstand his aura force at all. One after another, the Gold Core Realm and Nascent Soul Realm cultivators were minced into minced meat by his sword sense. Their blood splattered across the vast sky. How terrifying was that scene! Ning Fan's body shook and transformed into a 6,000 zhang tall reckless devil giant. He stepped on the snow and swallowed each of the Divine Transformation Realm cultivators into his stomach with a wave of his hand, chewing them to pieces. This reckless devil giant was completely different from ordinary giants. Ordinary giants did not have this kind of barbaric chi at all. Each of the magic treasures hit the giant's body, but none of them could break his defense. The defense of this reckless devil giant's physical body had already reached an astonishing level. With just a few attacks from the reckless devil giant, the 100,000 members of the Ghost Eye clan had already died. Only 7 Void Refinement Realm elders were left. If these 7 elders also die, the Ghost Eye clan would be annihilated even without Ning Fan's help. Because the Ghost Eye clan no longer had a Void Refinement Realm expert. I'm going to fight you to the death. A Void Glimpse stage white-haired old man dashed towards the giant that Ning Fan had transformed into with a gloomy expression. However, he was stomped into meat paste by the giant's foot. A burly Void Glimpse stage cultivator held a flying sword and aimed at the reckless devil giant's eyes. However, the reckless devil giant suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed the man along with his sword. Then, it bit him to death with its gigantic teeth. For Void Glimpse stage cultivators set up a formation that was overflowing with devil chi. However, they were all killed along with the formation by a wave of the giant's hand. Even their primordial spirits could not escape. That Ghost Eye Void Inquiry stage cultivator was already scared out of his wits. He desperately tried to escape, but the giant caught up with him in just one step. From today onwards, there will no longer be any Ghost Eye clan in this world. The giant said coldly and swallowed the last Ghost Eye Void Inquiry stage cultivator. After withdrawing from his giant form, Ning Fan landed on the jade platform. His cold eyes swept across the cultivators of the 100-plus sections. Each of them kept quiet out of fear. None of them dared to fight against him at all. Who else wants to fight for Feng Shuyan? Ning Fan's eyes swept across each of the Void Refinement Realm sections. However, all of the Void Refinement Realm old monsters avoided his gaze. When Ning Fan's gaze fell upon the seats of the Lan Ling sect, he saw King Lan Ling staring at him with an unfriendly gaze. I heard that King Lan Ling wants to teach me a lesson. So what if I am? King Lan Ling gritted his teeth and said. He could not help but admit that Ning Fan's baleful chi after killing Marquis Yugui was so strong that he could not bear it. I'm right here. Lan Ling, do you dare to fight me? Preposterous. How proud was King Lanling? How could he accept such humiliation? He leaped onto the jade platform and stood facing Ning Fan with his hands clasped behind his back, giving him the demeanor of an expert. His handsome face looked even more extraordinary as the orchids fell from the sky. However, his gaze was too vicious. Even if you have a void fragmentation realm strike, I can still defeat you easily. There's no need for me to use a void fragmentation realm attack against a mere second primordial spirit like you. You are asking for death. King Lanling was furious. In the Ju-Mo broken world, all the 8 ancestors including King Ju-Lu were shocked by Ning Fan's terrifying strength. Impossible. This brat definitely didn't have such strength when he left Northern Liang. He actually killed that old thing, Marquis Yugue. This is absolutely impossible. A vicious female voice said. I wonder if this brat will affect our plan. An old ancestor of the Ju-Mo clan said worriedly. Don't worry. Marquis Yugue is already dead. As long as Lan Ling dies, the nourishment for this boundless sea of sin formation will be gathered. Once the formation is completed, this brat will certainly die. I originally wanted to wait for another 10 years before taking Feng Shuyan's life. However, since 100 sects have come here to die, the plan can be carried out in advance and we don't need any more sinful sea pills. King Ju-Lu said with a sinister smile. In other words, from today onwards, we will be able to break the slave marks of the Ju-Mo clan? One of the ancestors asked excitedly. Of course. King Ju-Lu sneered inwardly. From today onwards, everyone would be able to break the slave marks because everyone would die. Only he, King Ju-Lu, would be able to break through to the void fragmentation realm in one go. Old ancestor Ju Yan's eyes were filled with uneasiness. He always felt that King Ju-Lu's smile was a little cold, which made him feel a chill in his heart. Do we really have to sacrifice Xuan? Ju Yan closed his eyes painfully. Chapter 5:12. On one side of the jade platform, King Lanling looked really handsome. He wore a purple robe and a purple gold crown on his head. He looked like a young emperor and there was a cinnabar dot on his forehead which made him look really evil. He stood in the wind and snow with countless orchids falling around him. He was peerless, like the son of a god, attracting the admiration of many female cultivators present. Compared to Prince Lanling's handsomeness, Ning Fan's attire was rather simple and plain. He wore a set of white robes and let his black hair hang loosely. His cold eyes were like an unfathomable deep pool. His white robes were stained with blood, and the stars between his eyebrows looked demonic, adding to his solemn killing intent. The domineering aura of the reckless devil condensed between his brows, and his aura was so powerful that ordinary cultivators found it hard to breathe. Many women also fell in love with him. King Lanling was the strongest person below the void fragmentation realm in the rain world. As for Ning Fan, he was the strongest devil lord in the internal sea. If Ning Fan does not use his void fragmentation realm jade slip and King Lanling uses his second primordial spirit to fight, who would win this battle? Perhaps Prince Lanling has a higher chance of winning. After all, his true body is the strongest expert below the void fragmentation realm in the rain world. The combat power of his second primordial spirit was extremely strong. How could Ning Fan possibly resist it? One by one, the cultivators of the numerous sects didn't even dare to breathe, staring at the jade platform with rapt attention. Today, 11 void refinement realm experts had already died in Ning Fan's hands. This matter would certainly shock the entire world. After witnessing Ning Fan's terrifying means, who would still dare to have any designs on Feng Shuyan? Ning Fan's eyes were as calm as an unfathomable abyss. Even though he had already killed Marquis Yugue and he was sure to win the battle against King Lanling, he still felt a little uneasy. That uneasiness was as if they had missed out on some enemies, causing these enemies to still be plotting in the dark. Big Brother made a forceful move and suppressed the Ghost Eye clan, causing the 100+ sects who originally harbored evil intentions to be extremely fearful and afraid to act recklessly. I'm afraid that little sister Shuyan's tribulation today should be over. However, Why do I still feel a little uneasy? Su Qiuling's brows were filled with worry. Just like Ning Fan, she had also sensed a trace of strange atmosphere. Would Feng Shuyan's tribulation really end like this? What is sister you doing? Su Qiuling was suddenly surprised. She took out a jade pendant that had a trace of Yu Lingkong's aura left on it. She could know Yu Lingkong's safety and whereabouts by relying on her aura. On the jade pendant, Yu Lingkong's aura seemed to have come out of seclusion. Has big sister Yu successfully broken through to the void inquiry stage? But if she has already come out from seclusion, why didn't she come and look for us? Where is she now? Su Qiuling was puzzled. On both ends of the jade platform, Ning Fan and King Lan Ling were 10,000 zhang away from each other. King Lan Ling, on the other hand, had killed 11 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row, including Marquis Yu Gui, who was at the absolute void stage. His baleful qi was so strong that it nearly suffocated King Lan Ling. After just exchanging glances with Ning Fan for a few breaths, King Lan Ling could no longer withstand Ning Fan's aura force and took the initiative to attack. As soon as he took a step forward, sighs could be heard from all directions. Obviously, everyone could tell that King Lan Ling had lost to Ning Fan in the battle of aura force. This scene did not seem to be what they had guessed earlier. Prince Lan Ling's handsome face was burning with pain, as if he had lost to Ning Fan and suffered great humiliation. With just a single step, he had crossed a distance of 10,000 zhang and arrived at the other side of the jade platform. Then, he raised his hand and pressed down on Ning Fan's finger. His finger shone like a sword. Its destructive force was nearly equivalent to a void pierce stage attack. He wanted to defeat Ning Fan in a single strike and redeem his reputation. You said that you don't need to use your void fragmentation realm jade slip to fight against me? Humph. I think you don't have any more jade slips. That's good too. If you don't have a void fragmentation realm jade slip, killing you is as easy as killing an ant for me. This is the void treading steps. Someone recognized King Lan Ling's escape technique. His speed was actually not any weaker than the void teleportation of ordinary void pierce stage experts. White Orchid Sword Finger. There were also some who recognized King Lan Ling's finger technique. Few void inquiry stage experts could withstand the destructive force of his finger. Looking at the incoming finger and sword light, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of contempt. When Ning Fan first met King Lan Ling in the Six-Winged Clan, he still felt that this person was like a lofty mountain which he could not defeat. Now, when he looked at King Lan Ling again, he felt that this person was much weaker than him even though he was strong. In the eyes of countless people, the White Orchid Sword Finger that was as fast as lightning flashed with dazzling white light which was almost brighter than the sun. However, in Ning Fan's eyes, that sword light was so slow that it seemed to be stagnant. It was not that King Lan Ling had become weaker. Instead, it was because Ning Fan was no longer the same as before. Break. Ning Fan turned his hand and pointed his finger. His attack was as fast as lightning. He displayed the heaven-breaking sword finger that he had not used for a long time. The mountains, rivers, and the void between heaven and earth began to crumble, turning the destructive force into the power of Ning Fan's finger. The first attack crumbled the mountains and rivers of the island. The second attack crumbled the black sun of the heavens. The third attack crumbled the undead bones of the void. In just an instant, Ning Fan displayed the first, second, and third attack of his sword finger consecutively. The first attack of the sword finger struck out at lightning speed. It happened to counteract King Lan Ling's White Orchid Sword Finger. King Lan Ling's expression changed. He did not expect that his White Orchid Sword Finger would be broken so easily. What followed next was the second attack of the sword light, which shocked him. He raised his hand and performed the second attack of the White Orchid Sword Finger, forcefully counteracting 50 to 60% of the power of the second attack. The remaining sword light landed on his chest, shattering all of his spirit equipment and treasure armor. He was forced to take tens of steps back. Before he could regain his balance, the third attack of the sword light attacked him like maggots in his bones, causing his back to break out in cold sweat. In the third attack of the sword light, he seemed to see countless undead bones of the void walking towards him. His flesh and blood actually began to decay slightly. Boom! The third attack of the sword finger hit King Lan Ling without any deviation. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and only managed to stabilize himself after retreating 1,000 steps. The orchids around his body dispersed and only then did he manage to neutralize part of the force of the finger, preventing himself from being severely injured. However, his purple gold crown was shattered and his hair was scattered. The current King Lan Ling looked extremely disheveled. Even though he was not severely injured, his injuries were not light either. He no longer had the confidence he had before. How is this possible? Each of the cultivators of the 100-plus sects was inexplicably shocked. King Lan Ling had almost lost to Ning Fan after just one exchange of blows. With such a huge difference in strength, King Lan Ling actually dared to say that killing Ning Fan was as easy as pinching an ant to death. It was as if he had slapped his own mouth. I don't believe it. You are a void inquiry stage expert and I am also a void inquiry stage expert. How can I lose to you when we are at the same level? Heaven's sacrificial ruler. King Lan Ling took out a ruler and attacked Ning Fan with it. It was an ancient ruler that had existed for a long time. It looked like jade and gold but was not. Once it was wielded, it turned into 100,000 ruler shadows and struck at Ning Fan's head. Its aura was as powerful as the heavens and it could instantly kill an ordinary void inquiry stage expert. That ancient ruler also possessed a void-grade divine ability which had the effect of bewitching one's mind. Countless chants of ancient scriptures resounded in Ning Fan's mind out of nowhere. Those innumerable ancient scriptures seemed to be bewitching Ning Fan to die for the sake of heaven and earth. As for the ancient ruler that was hanging high up in the sky, it suddenly dissipated and turned into the shadow of a massive halo. The halo emitted a trace of heavenly Tao's might. This is the legendary heavenly Tao halo. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He recognized the origin of the ancient ruler. Inwardly, he already understood that this heaven sacrificial ruler was a magic treasure that contained heaven's might. It could borrow the power of the heavenly Tao halo to injure the enemy. The one who wields the ruler would punish the enemy on behalf of heaven. Those who defy the ruler would go against the heavenly Tao halo. If ordinary cultivators faced the heaven sacrificial ruler, they would certainly be intimidated by the heaven's might. However, Ning Fan had never been afraid of heaven's might. To him, heaven and earth was just a cage. As for this cage, it could not trap him who was a foolly cultivator, a reckless devil cultivator or a butterfly cultivator. Break! He suddenly raised his fist and threw a punch at the sky. Devil chi billowed and heaven and earth were filled with the shadow of the devil dragon fist. In Ning Fan's hands, the twin dragon's void technique had actually reached the point of perfection without leaving any trace. As soon as he threw out his punch, the heavenly Tao halo suddenly shattered. 100,000 ruler shadows turned into ashes. Under the tremendous force, the entire cold northern country shook violently. With just the strength of a single punch, the heaven sacrificial ruler which possessed extraordinary power was actually reduced to ashes. King Lan Ling and the heaven sacrificial ruler cultivated together. At the moment when the ruler was destroyed, he coughed out blood again, dyeing his python robe red. He raised his head reluctantly. He could not believe that Ning Fan could withstand his attack so calmly. Even if he was unwilling to admit it, he had to admit that Ning Fan's strength was far above his second primordial spirit. A trace of jealousy was born in his heart. It was just like how he was jealous of Yun Tianjue in the past. That jealousy and hatred eventually turned into the sharpest killing intent. He summoned a treasure armor that was infinitely close to the profound divine realm. Even though it was not as powerful as the heavenly ghost armor, it was much stronger than Ning Fan's primordial lightning armor. Thus, he was no longer afraid of any of Ning Fan's attacks. I, Lan Ling, am not a Dharma treasure or a Dharma spell, but my divine decree. A single orchid can contain all the splendor of the world in an instant. This is my Tao. The orchid is the Tao. To respect the orchid is to obtain the Tao. To abandon the orchid is to lose the Tao. The Tao should be like the orchid. King Lanling's aura force suddenly changed. Countless dark purple orchids fell from heaven and earth. One orchid, one life, one death. 7 orchids technique. King Lanling made a grabbing motion with his large hand. The countless orchids in heaven and earth suddenly condensed into 7 100 zhang large dark purple orchids. At the moment when the 7 orchids appeared, the high-level cultivators of the 100-plus sects revealed a look of terror. Every high-level cultivator in the 800 cultivation countries did not know how terrifying King Lanling's 7 orchids technique was. It was not a type of magic technique. To be more precise, it was a type of curse technique that was cast with the help of the spirit intent. If the orchid does not wither, the enemy will not die. If the orchid withers, the enemy will die. 1 life, 1 death. King Lanling raised his hand and pointed at a sword light. Then, a gigantic orchid in the sky was cut into pieces. All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He did not know why he was injured. While he was injured, King Lanling's injuries actually recovered a little. It was as if he had transferred his injuries to Ning Fan. 2 lives, 2 deaths. King Lanling sneered. He raised his finger like a sword and cut the second orchid into pieces. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. He took half a step back and his eyes flashed with a strange light. He could already tell that this so-called 7 orchids technique was a type of curse magic technique in the mortal world. Among the mortals, if they hated someone but could not take revenge, they would take their enemy's birth date and 8 characters and write them on a straw doll. Then, they would prick it with needles. Those who knew how to use curse techniques could kill a person with 7 needles in 7 days. In the cultivation world, there were also curse techniques like the 7 Arrows book. Without a doubt, what this King Lanling was using must be a type of curse technique. It was rather sinister. He took a step forward and was about to attack. However, King Lanling was faster than him. He raised his hand and killed the 3rd orchid. 3 lives, 3 deaths. At the moment when the 3rd orchid was destroyed, Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his dantian. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, when he raised his head and looked at the remaining 4 orchids, he was not enraged. Instead, his eyes were filled with contemplation. At the moment when King Lanling destroyed the 3rd orchid, Ning Fan seemed to have understood something. He recalled King Lanling's words, "Orchids are the great Tao. Respecting orchids is the way to gain Tao. Shedding orchids is the way to lose Tao." Originally, there was nothing to debate about these words. However, after witnessing the 7 orchids technique, Ning Fan suddenly realized that the 2 words shedding orchids sounded somewhat familiar. Shedding orchids are the great Tao. If the orchids are the great Tao, the Lanling sect would naturally respect orchids. The main point of this 7 orchids technique was to seize and plunder. It was to inflict one's own injuries on the enemy. It was to take away the enemy's life when the orchids were destroyed. As for the shedding orchids sect, it naturally belonged to the shedding orchids. All the main points of the technique were to give up first before obtaining. It was the opposite of the Lanling sect's principle, but it was also very similar. Ning Fan raised his head. His expression was still calm. If the 7 orchids were destroyed, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. King Lanling was vicious, but Ning Fan was not a kind person either. How could he let him destroy all the orchids? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of cold light. He suddenly raised his hand and performed an ancient and profound hand seal. When King Lanling destroyed the 4th orchid, Ning Fan suddenly displayed a magic technique that he had obtained from his divine chests. Mutual death technique. 4 lives and 4 deaths. Lanling sneered. What he wanted to see was the scene of Ning Fan slowly dying. However, he did not expect that after destroying the 4th orchid, Ning Fan was already injured, but he, Lanling, did not recover from his injuries as he had expected. Instead, he was injured together with Ning Fan. A massive ancient formation diagram suddenly covered the 10,000 zhang tall jade platform. Countless orchids were engraved on the formation diagram. At the moment the formation diagram appeared, the orchids that were falling around King Lan Ling's body suddenly shattered for no reason. To his horror, he realized that his lifespan was rapidly decreasing. 1,000 years. Ning Fan uttered the two words coldly and performed a series of hand seals. A strand of white hair appeared on his temples. It was a sign that his lifespan was going to be shortened. As he performed the hand seals, Ning Fan's lifespan decreased by 1,000 years. As for King Lan Ling, he realized that his lifespan had actually decreased by 1,300 years. The magic technique of the Shedding Orchid sect. This is the mutual death technique. King Lan Ling's eyes were filled with surprise. He actually recognized the origin of this technique. Feeling terrified, he wanted to flee from the jade platform. How could he not flee? His second primordial spirit had been cultivated in a very short time. He only had less than 4,000 years of lifespan. He did not dare to endure this kind of life-shortening magic technique that would exchange one's life for another. Even though he was wearing a half-step divine profound realm treasure armor, it could not defend against the mutual death technique. The profound cultivators of the 100+ sects, on the other hand, were at a loss. They did not know what the mutual death technique was at all, nor did they know how terrifying it was. However, when they saw King Lan Ling's terrified expression, they began to guess what kind of magic technique Ning Fan was using. In the Lan Ling sect, the Void Pierce Stage Elder originally wanted to help King Lan Ling. However, when he saw the mutual death technique, the fear in his eyes was even greater than King Lan Ling's. King Lan Ling was just a second primordial spirit. If he dies, then so be it. However, he was a living human being. He was a Void Pierce Stage old monster who did not have much time left in his lifespan. He only had less than 2,500 years left. How would he dare to face Ning Fan's mutual death technique head-on? Do you want to leave? Freeze. Ning Fan pointed at Lan Ling with the back of his hand and froze her in place again. 2,000 years. This time, he sacrificed a total of 2,000 years of his lifespan. King Lan Ling's entire body was in excruciating pain. After losing 2,700 years of his lifespan, all of his black hair had turned white. His originally handsome face had turned into that of an old man. As he was too old, it was hard for him to mobilize his magic power. At this moment, King Lan Ling was filled with fear. He used the 7 orchids technique to plot against Ning Fan, but Ning Fan used the mutual death technique to plot against him instead. Madman. This man is a madman. Even the Void Refinement Realm old monsters in the history of the Shedding Orchid sect were not willing to sacrifice 3,000 years of their lifespan. I've lost 4,000 years of my lifespan and my second primordial spirit has become so old that it can no longer fight. This man has sacrificed 3,000 years of his lifespan. Why does he only have a few more strands of white hair? He doesn't look old at all. This man. How many years of lifespan does he actually have? Ning Fan casually plucked a few strands of white hair from his temples. To him who had 110,000 years of lifespan, losing 3,000 years of his lifespan was just a small matter. He approached King Lan Ling step by step. His killing intent was fully revealed. He had already dispelled the heaven-sealing finger. However, King Lan Ling was lying limply on the jade platform, unable to move. He was already at the end of his lifespan and did not have the strength to resist Ning Fan. Zhou Ming, how dare you hurt my lord? That Void Pierce Stage Elder only dared to scold Ning Fan, but he did not dare to step forward at all. Not only was he afraid of Ning Fan's Void Fragmentation Realm Jade Slip, but he was even more afraid of Ning Fan's mutual death technique. Under his scolding, only a few hundred cultivators of the Lan Ling sect who were hot-headed rushed to the jade platform, intending to protect King Lan Ling. Before these cultivators could get close to Ning Fan, they were swept away by his sword sense. All of them died, their blood splattered on the jade platform. King Lan Ling raised his aged eyes and looked at Ning Fan. He felt as if Ning Fan had become an undefeatable devil lord at this moment. Don't ever provoke me. This time, it's your second primordial spirit that died. If there's a next time, it will be your true body that dies. Qi Ning Fan raised his hand and stomped on the ground, turning King Lan Ling's aged second primordial spirit into a pile of flesh. The 7 orchids technique also collapsed on its own. Before King Lan Ling's second primordial spirit died, its eyes were filled with fear and resentment. However, after hearing Ning Fan's threat, it could not bring itself to take revenge at all. With Ning Fan's means, if he kills his way into the Lan Ling sect, would his true body who was in seclusion to recuperate be able to withstand a void fragmentation realm attack? Mutual death technique, sect master, has lost. All the members of the Lan Ling sect were filled with fear. They really wanted to know if Ning Fan would kill them, the remnants of the Lan Ling sect. Each of the cultivators of the 100+ sects was immersed in shock. This shock was only because Ning Fan had killed King Lan Ling's second primordial spirit without using the void fragmentation realm jade slip. Ning Fan, who was at the void inquiry stage, could already kill King Lan Ling and Marquis Yugue. If this young man grows stronger, who could afford to offend him? Perhaps even void fragmentation realm old monsters would not be willing to offend this young man. It seems like it's meaningless for us to stay in the giant devil clan. With Zhou Ming here, no one can take Feng Shuian away. Su Qiuling's frown remained unchanged. Will Feng Shuian's tribulation really end so easily? Why did her heart beat even faster? As a matter of fact, Ning Fan also realized that after he killed King Lan Ling, the uneasiness and fear in his heart suddenly increased. His divination technique was not profound. Thus, he could not predict the reason for his uneasiness. However, he knew that an unforeseen event was about to happen. That was why he did not annihilate the Lan Ling sect at once. Just as he was deep in thought, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the snowy sky. The Pill Island, which was floating in the vast sky, was actually shattered into 2 halves by the crack that suddenly appeared. Countless cultivators of the Pill Island turned into rays of traveling light and flew down from the Pill Island on their magic treasures. The sky was filled with huge rocks that fell from the Pill Island when it was destroyed. What is that? Countless cultivators raised their heads to look at the sky. A gigantic blood-red tree suddenly emerged from the crack in the sky. It seemed like some kind of flower was growing on the tree, but it had yet to bear fruits. Below the blood-red tree, 6 layers of blood seas suddenly appeared. In the territory of the northern Liang province, 8 gigantic devil pillars suddenly rose from the ground. One of the devil pillars happened to be located at the seats of the Lan Ling sect. The devil pillar pierced out from the ground and directly killed nearly 10,000 low-grade cultivators of the Lan Ling sect. The blood essence of the dead cultivators all rose into the sky and went into the 6 layers of blood seas. As for some cultivators of the 100+ sects who were closer to the devil pillars, their bodies exploded without any warning. Their blood spilled in the wind and snow. As for some cultivators of the giant devil clan, even though they were far away from the devil pillars, their bodies also exploded without any warning. The scene was extremely terrifying. Who is so bold to kill the cultivators of our 100+ sects at will? Each of the void refinement realm old monsters turned to look at Ning Fan. It seemed like they suspected that Ning Fan was the one who killed them. However, none of them dared to question him because they were afraid of Ning Fan's ferocious might. Ning Fan felt helpless. As long as someone kills the innocent, others will suspect him. Of course, he did not need to explain anything because 8 void refinement realm experts had already appeared under the 6 layers of blood seas. They were undoubtedly the culprits of this incident. Besides, Ning Fan also realized that the uneasiness in his heart became even stronger after the 8 ancestors showed up. Did I miss them? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. 8 old ancestors, what's going on? Zhu Qing looked at the 8 ancestors in disbelief. Aren't the 8 old ancestors plotting something big and unwilling to show themselves? Then, why did they attack again? Besides, since they attacked, it's fine to kill the cultivators of the 100+ sections. But why do they also want to kill the cultivators of the giant devil clan? It's nothing. It's just some blood sacrifices. Of course, the biggest sacrifice is none other than Feng Shuian. King Zhu Lu smiled coldly. All of a sudden, he pointed his finger downward from tens of thousands of zhang away. All of a sudden, the false Mo Luo blood in Feng Shuian's body began to burn, causing her to let out a heart-wrenching scream. Ah! Zhu Qing could not believe what he was seeing. The 8 old ancestors actually attacked Feng Shuian. What made Zhu Qing even more incredulous was King Zhu Lu's increasingly cold words. Activate the boundless sea of sin formation. Everyone here will become blood sacrifices until the progenitor tree blossoms. What? Countless members of the giant devil clan could not believe their eyes. These 8 void refinement realm experts who appeared out of nowhere actually wanted to sacrifice everyone here. Some of the members of the giant devil clan who had seen the portraits of their ancestors before could vaguely recognize that these 8 void refinement realm experts were the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan. How could they believe that their 8 ancestors would kill their own people? Sea of Sin, open. The 8 devil pillars and the 6 layers of the Sea of Blood gave off layers of formation light, sealing off heaven and earth and trapping everyone within it. Within the formation light, the cultivators whose cultivation bases were not strong began to turn into pus and blood and die. Countless cultivators of hundreds of sects attacked the formation light. However, even if all the void refinement realm cultivators of the sects joined forces, they still could not break the formation light. Ning Fan stood in front of Feng Shuian to protect her. He kept pointing his finger at her, but he could not extinguish the flames of the devil blood in her body. His eyes were filled with anxiety. If he allows the devil blood to continue burning, Feng Shuian would be burned to ashes in just 1 hour. He wanted to save her. However, in the end, he realized that even if he had the Mo Luo ancestral talisman, he could not get rid of the hidden danger of Feng Shuian's devil blood in just 1 hour. He actually could not save her. Why? Why? Father, how can you bear to treat Shuian like this? How could you treat our giant devil clan like this? Zhu Qing's cry of grief and indignation was not directed at King Zhu Lu and the others. Instead, it was directed at Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan closed his eyes in disappointment. He did not explain anything. For the continuation of the clan, he really had no choice but to sacrifice the descendants of his clan. Feng Shuian's body was trembling. That trembling made Ning Fan feel powerless and furious. He had eliminated the Ghost Eye clan and Lan Ling clan. He had wiped out all of his enemies. However, the ones who hurt Feng Shuian the most were her family members. Perhaps the heartache Feng Shuian was feeling right now was even more painful than the devil blood burning her body. 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan, die for me. The surface of Ning Fan's fist was covered with golden purple wind and mist. He threw a punch at the boundless evil sea formation. With just a single punch, the entire boundless evil sea formation that no one could break began to erode. What? Countless cultivators of the sects were shocked. The ones who found it the most unbelievable were the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan. That punch contained Ning Fan's understanding of samsara. That punch contained Ning Fan's obsession and determination. Ning Fan did not know how to save Feng Shuian. However, if she dies, he would make everyone who had hurt her die with her. As for the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan, they were not worthy to be Feng Shuian's ancestors. He turned into a ray of escaping light and soared into the sky. His aura force carried the determination to destroy everything. One of the 8 ancestors, the mean lady who always treated Ning Fan with disdain, faced Ning Fan with cold eyes. She raised her hand and took out a flying sword at lightning speed, trying to kill Ning Fan. I am the former clan leader of the giant devil clan, Bai Tong. Now, my soul is attached to the ancestral tree. Even if you have a void fragmentation realm attack, you won't be able to kill me. No matter how many times I die, I will be reborn under the ancestral tree. As for me, killing you is just like killing an ant. The ancestral tree, Ning Fan's eyes were as cold as ice. He shattered the flying sword with a punch and activated the power of the yin-yang locket with a flip of his hand. A rope that was neither gold nor iron condensed in his palm. It was a type of bewitching technique recorded in the yin-yang transformation. It was of a higher grade than the yin plucking finger. However, it required at least void refinement realm magic power to use. He could indeed see a strange chi surrounding old ancestor Bai Tong when the ancestral tree appeared. It was as if she could not be eliminated no matter how many times he killed her. But so what? He suddenly raised his hand and the black and white rope flew towards Bai Tong at an unbelievable speed. Yin imprisoning rope. Ning Fan uttered coldly. When old ancestor Bai Tong saw Ning Fan shattering the flying sword with a punch, she was initially shocked. However, when she saw Ning Fan trying to tie her up with a rope, she revealed a mocking expression. Trying to tie me up with an unknown rope? How ridiculous. She tried to retreat, but the imprisoning seal rope suddenly sped up. It was even faster than her speed of retreat, binding her tightly. At the moment when she was bound by the rope, she actually lost all of her magic power. She could not use any magic power at all. At this moment, she was in a state where she was neither alive nor dead. Thus, she should not be afraid of Ning Fan. Logically speaking, even if she was bound by ordinary magic treasures, she could use her connection with the ancestral tree to reincarnate under it and escape from any restraints. However, this yin imprisoning rope was too terrifying. Once it binds her, even her connection with the ancestral tree was cut off. If she is killed in such a state, she would definitely not be able to reincarnate under the ancestral tree. Don't kill me. Old ancestor Bai Tong actually begged for mercy. Kill you? You will become my human cauldron and live a life worse than death. Ning Fan shook the yin imprisoning rope and threw Bai Tong into his cauldron ring. Without stopping, he dashed towards the other 7 ancestors. He raised his hand and took out the 5th void fragmentation realm jade slip and crushed it. All of a sudden, a void fragmentation realm attack whizzed out. It did not attack the other 7 ancestors but the ancestral tree above the sky instead. Ning Fan did not know how to save Feng Shuiyan. However, after the battle with old ancestor Bai Tong, he had already sensed that there was something strange about that ancestral tree. He must destroy it immediately. Perhaps he could save Feng Shuiyan by destroying the ancestral tree. Perhaps he could not. However, he wanted to try. For a moment, all 6 ancestors except King Ju Lu were shocked and enraged. Zhou Ming, how dare you attack the ancestral tree and ruin the great plan of our giant devil clan? We will make you die without a burial place. King Ju Lu was the only one who seemed to have expected that Ning Fan would destroy the ancestral tree. He sneered and took out a jade slip which also contained a void fragmentation realm attack. 2 giant shadows appeared in the sky one after another. One of them turned into a giant devil while the other turned into Lan Jiao. Each of them displayed a void fragmentation realm attack. As they clashed, heaven and earth crumbled. However, the ancestral tree was not destroyed at all. Zhou Ming, you are not the only one who possesses a void fragmentation realm jade slip. You are still too inexperienced if you want to destroy the ancestral tree and become my enemy. Just as King Ju Lu was talking nonsense, a burst of presumptuous laughter that had not been heard for a long time resounded from below the ancestral tree. Little cucumber, don't worry. If you want to chop down the tree, I will help you. I can chop down this tree in no time at all. Yu Lingkong's sudden appearance under the ancestral tree was beyond everyone's expectation. She raised her hand and waved a moon blade, slashing at the roots of the ancestral tree. All of a sudden, King Ju Lu roared furiously, which he had never done before. No. Chapter 513. Chi. Yu Lingkong waved her moon blade complacently. As the moonlight flashed, the progenitor tree trembled and gave birth to countless bloody mists. Amidst the bloody mist, the progenitor tree seemed to snap and collapse with a loud rumble. Her sudden arrival was a huge variable that King Ju Lu did not expect. In the eyes of the giant demon clan's 6th ancestor, the progenitor tree was the best way to break the slave marks of the giant demon clan. However, King Zhu Lu was the only one who understood that the ancestral tree was his hope to break through to the void fragmentation realm. This was a demonic tree left behind by the giant demon progenitor. King Zhu Lu deceived the other 7 ancestors. He planted the ancestral tree with his blood, nurtured the tree with a formation and attached his life to the tree. In the end, he sacrificed Feng Shuiyan to the ancestral tree and used his devil blood to form a fruit. With the fruit of the ancestral tree, he broke through to the void fragmentation realm. However, all these wishes seemed to have vanished the moment the progenitor tree fell. King Zhu Lu's chest was filled with rage, and he almost wanted to kill Yu Linkong. However, at the moment he looked at the progenitor tree, he seemed to have noticed something, and he revealed a cold smile. The progenitor tree didn't fall. King Giant Deer discovered this fact. As for Yu Linkong, she heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, she had already broken through to the void inquiry stage a long time ago. It was just that she concealed her heavenly tribulation and hid in the dark, thinking that she could act at the critical moment to help Feng Shuiyan. Little Cucumber, I've already knocked down this broken tree. She excitedly wanted to ask Ning Fan for the credit, but she saw Ning Fan's gloomy expression. Using his 8 wings at full speed, he hurriedly flew to the front of her, grabbed her slender waist and immediately retreated. It was as if there was a fiendish demon in the crack between the heavens and the earth. He had to escape immediately, or there would be endless troubles in the future. Yu Linkong didn't understand what was going on. Before she could react, she saw the blood mist in the crack in the sky suddenly dissipate, revealing the progenitor tree that had clearly been chopped down, but it was still standing upright. Being cut down just now was just an illusion created by the blood mist. Yu Linkong felt greatly humiliated. She, a human, was actually deceived by a tree. This was too embarrassing. While he was thinking about these idiotic questions, he suddenly felt uncomfortable. His face suddenly turned pale, and a feeling of weakness surged through his body. Only now did she notice to her shock that 1/10 of the blood essence in her body had actually been lost for no reason. Shockingly, it had been swallowed by the blood mist. The progenitor tree had cast an illusion technique to pretend that it had been chopped down, lowering her guard while secretly absorbing her blood essence. This was a demonic tree that sucked human blood. If Ning Fan had been half a step slower in saving her, even if she did not die under the ancestral tree, she would have suffered severe injuries due to the loss of her blood essence. Don't be so reckless next time. That tree is a bit scary. Don't get close to it. Ning Fan's words carried a harsh tone. However, Yu Linkong could hear the concern in his words. Naturally, she was in a good mood. After swallowing a healing pill, Yu Linkong cursed without a care for her image. Motherfucker! How dare a desolate tree suck my blood essence? This is infuriating, but speaking of which, this tree is really hard, even harder than Little Cucumber's cucumber. My crescent blade didn't even scratch its skin. This tree is indeed very hard, and this tree is very dangerous. Ning Fan's frown deepened. Just now, when he was heading towards the tree, he actually felt a sense of death from the ancestral tree. Even if he escaped into the profound Yin world, he wouldn't be able to avoid that sense of danger. Perhaps the scariness of this ancestral tree was far beyond Ning Fan's imagination. Perhaps even the void fragmentation realm jade slips he used previously could not destroy it in one go. After Ning Fan destroyed the boundless evil sea formation with his fist, the group of cultivators finally escaped death. Each and every one of the cultivators who had survived the calamity looked at Ning Fan with eyes filled with respect as well as a hint of complicated gratitude. If it wasn't for Ning Fan who destroyed the grand formation, all the cultivators of the 100+ sects would have turned into blood and died in the formation without knowing why. Even though they were not slow in escaping, the low-level disciples of each sect had also suffered heavy losses. Adding up the 100+ sects, at least 300,000 low-level disciples had turned into blood and died. How hateful. The cultivators of the 100+ sects originally came to snatch the wind, snow words and the slate. However, they did not expect to fall into the trap of the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan and were almost sacrificed to them. However, if it wasn't because they were blinded by greed and came to the giant devil clan to stir up trouble, how could so many of their disciples have died? They indeed deserved it. Everyone's resentment was transferred to the 7 ancestors of the giant devil clan. They must settle the score with him. The Chongshu elder of the Lan Ling sect, Zheng He, the master of the Yang Heaven Palace of the Rain Palace, Marquis Shenjian of the Ice Mountain Sword sect, Fairy Miao Yi of the Wonderful Sound Valley, Zen Master Xiankong of the Profound Sky Temple, the master of the Six Flames sect, the master of the Nirvana Valley. These remaining 7 Void Refinement Realm cultivators were going to demand an explanation from the 7 ancestors of the Giant Devil clan. Isn't this the previous patriarch of the Giant Demon clan, King Zhu? He wants to use the cultivators of 100 sects as sacrifices. What a good plan. It's a pity that we didn't die. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Marquis Divine Sword furiously slashed at Monarch Giant Deer. Disappointed? Why should I be disappointed? I was worried that the progenitor tree was injured, but now that I see that the progenitor tree is safe and sound, I can finally relax. My grand plan will not be destroyed, and I will not be disappointed. The flowers of the ancestral tree are about to bloom. All of you must die here today to pave the way for me to break through to the void fragmentation realm. Break my clan's slave mark. Ridiculous. How could the progenitor tree have the ability to break slave marks? Moreover, why would this old man painstakingly scheme for the sake of some clansmen? Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. This tree is planted by this old man only to break through to the void fragmentation realm, not to save anyone. The time has come. No one can stop my plan. King Zhu sneered. He floated towards Monarch Giant Deer's sword, allowing Monarch Giant Deer to slash him into a mist of blood. Marquis Divine Sword was stunned. He did not expect that he could kill Monarch Giant Deer with a single strike. After all, Monarch Giant Deer's cultivation level was higher than his by a small realm. However, at the next moment, Marquis Divine Sword was shocked to discover that under the ancestral tree in the crack in the sky, a mist of blood suddenly condensed and formed the appearance of Monarch Giant Deer. Monarch Giant Deer could actually be reborn after death. This greatly exceeded Marquis Divine Sword's expectation. It seemed like as long as the ancestral tree was not destroyed, no matter how many times Monarch Giant Deer died, he would always be reborn under the tree. This was the undying devil tree that was left behind by the progenitor of the Giant Devil clan. Monarch Giant Deer sneered. The blossoming of the ancestral tree had already reached the final stage. No one could stop him from breaking through to the void fragmentation realm. He revealed the original plan in his mind. The 6 old ancestors including Zhu Yan were stunned and found it hard to believe. Old Ancestor Giant Deer, what did you say? You said that this ancestral tree does not have the ability to break slave marks of my clan. Is this true? You said that we sacrificed ourselves, countless members of our clan and even Shuyan just to let you break through to the void fragmentation realm. Is this true? The few old ancestors of the Giant Devil clan questioned. Of course, what I said is true. All of you are just being used by me. Now, all of you no longer have any value to me. You can't escape death. I will let all of you die knowing the reason for your many years of hard work. All of you are just my chess pieces. That's all. Monarch Giant Deer smiled sinisterly. Old Ancestor Zhu Yan's eyes were filled with boundless anger. The same anger also appeared in the eyes of the other old ancestors. They had always thought that everything they did was for the sake of their clan. They always thought that what they did was noble and great. However, it was only now that they sadly realized that everything they did was actually being used by someone else. They had actually become someone else's stepping stone. Who would be willing to accept this? Especially Zhu Yan. After all, he was Feng Shuyan's grandfather. He had always thought that sacrificing Feng Shuyan was for the prosperity of the clan. Now, it seemed like the biggest mistake he had made in his life was hurting Shuyan. Moreover, he would never be able to make up for it. he looked at Feng Shuian who was below him. Feng Shuian was still being burned by the devil blood and she was unconscious due to the pain. For a moment, guilt and sorrow filled his heart. Zhu Yan closed his eyes in agony. As her grandfather, he actually wanted to send Feng Shuian to her death with his own hands. And all of this was just because he was being used by someone else. How stupid. Zhu Yan, you are so stupid. Giant deer. This old man and you won't stop until one of us is dead. Zhu Yan seemed to be filled with guilt, madness and anger, but he could no longer vent his anger. He turned into a ray of traveling light and dashed towards the ancestral tree, swearing to kill monarch giant deer. However, he could not make up for the guilt in his heart. Seeing Zhu Yan's attack, monarch giant deer sneered cruelly. Marquis Shenjian and the other Void Refinement Realm experts were stunned. They did not expect that the 7 ancestors of the giant devil clan would have an internal conflict. However, after being stunned for a while, Marquis Shenjian and the others decided to watch from the sidelines. Ning Fan did not rush towards the ancestral tree. He did not intend to watch from the sidelines either. He sensed an unprecedented dangerous qi from the ancestral tree. As soon as he sensed something unusual about the ancestral tree, Ning Fan was alarmed. He grabbed Yu Lingkong and flew backwards. Before Yu Lingkong could ask him what happened, a great change suddenly occurred in heaven and earth. On the ancestral tree, the first blood-red rose gently trembled. At the moment when the first rose trembled, the ancestral tree suddenly shot out a vine that was as thick as a bowl. It pierced through Zhu Yan's armor at an unbelievable speed and penetrated his dantian. The destructive force of a casual stab from the bloody tree was already close to that of a void fragmentation realm attack. Zhu Yan let out a muffled groan. His dantian had already been destroyed. He used all of his strength to swing his sword at the vine, but he could not damage it at all. The vine suddenly dragged him to the front of the ancestral tree. At this moment, a huge ferocious mouth suddenly appeared on the body of the ancestral tree. It was filled with sharp teeth. When it opened its mouth, it swallowed Zhu Yan into the ancestral tree and chewed him to pieces. Zhu Yan, a dignified Void Pierce stage expert, was actually devoured by the ancestral tree. As for his flesh and blood, it turned into nourishment for the ancestral tree. After devouring Zhu Yan, the first blood rose blossomed completely. Its petals were as red as blood. The first one. King Zhu Lu licked his lips with a sinister smile. Marquis Shenjian and the other Void Refinement Realm experts turned pale with fright. What exactly was the origin of that ancestral tree? It actually killed a Void Pierce stage expert with just a vine. Yu Lingkong began to feel scared. If she was not saved by Ning Fan in time, she would have ended up like Zhu Yan. Qi. 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 After the first blood rose blossomed, a whiff of evil fragrance was emitted. Wherever the fragrance spread, many cultivators turned into pus and died. This evil fragrance was much scarier than the formation light of the Sea of Sin. The ancestral tree even pulled out 1 million vines and pierced them at the Void Refinement Realm experts of the 100+ sects, including Marquis Shenjian and the remaining 5 old ancestors of the giant devil clan. Judging from King Zhu Lu's actions, he actually wanted to borrow the power of the ancestral tree to kill the Void Refinement Realm experts first. Countless low-grade cultivators of the 100+ sects were immediately killed or injured. Countless magic treasures bombarded the vines, but none of them could hurt the vines of the ancestral tree. The 5 old ancestors of the giant devil clan were greatly shocked. They turned around and fled immediately. The 5 of them were just Void Inquiry stage experts. Their cultivation levels were lower than Zhu Yan's. How could they resist the ancestral tree? They were filled with regret. They hated themselves for trusting King Zhu Lu so easily. They hated themselves for hurting their clansmen. However, it was already too late. Qi. 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 The 5 vines caught up to the 5 old ancestors as if they had teleported. They easily pierced their dantians and bound them tightly. When the vines retracted, the 5 old ancestors of the giant devil clan were swallowed into the huge mouth of the ancestral tree and died. The ancestral tree continuously bloomed 5 blood rose blossoms. There are 6 of them now. King Ju-Lu said excitedly. Chi! 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 The vines pierced the void pierce stage elder of the Lan Ling sect, nearly scaring him to death. His scalp went numb. Without hesitation, he grabbed the sect master of the 6 Flames sect and the young Heaven Palace Lord in front of him and threw them towards the vines, using them as meat shields. After 2 miserable shrieks, the sect master of the 6 Flames sect and the young Heaven Palace Lord were pierced to death by the vines respectively. Their corpses were then dragged back to the ancestral tree. With the help of the 2 meat shields, the elder of the Lan Ling sect desperately tried to escape. However, a vine pierced through him from the side. The lives of the 3 Void Refinement Realm experts added 3 more blood rose blossoms to the ancestral tree. There are 9 of them now. Chi! 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 The 4 vines pierced towards Marquis Shenjian, Fairy Miao Yi, Abbot Xiankong and the Master of the Nirvana Valley respectively. The 4 of them no longer dared to flee. They knew that if they did, they would die even faster. The only thing they could do was to resist with all their might. Void Sword Technique, Heavenly Light Swaying. Sound Transformation Technique. Devil Subduing Seal. Nirvana Fist. The 4 of them each unleashed their strongest attacks. However, their strongest attacks were not much stronger than Yu Linkong's moon blades. How could they hurt the vines? The vines remained unscathed and pierced into the dantians of the 4 Void Refinement Realm experts. 4 blood-curdling screams resounded. The 4 of them died and became food for the ancestral tree. On the ancestral tree, 3 more blood rose blossoms bloomed. The 4th one had yet to bloom. Once it does, the ancestral tree could only produce 12 blood rose blossoms. Everything happened in an instant. In just an instant, all the Void Refinement Realm experts were killed. If it wasn't because Ning Fan retreated quickly, it would be difficult for him and Yu Linkong to resist the vines of the ancestral tree. At this moment, all the Void Refinement Realm experts and the other ancestors of the giant devil clan were dead. King Ju-Lu's gaze finally shifted to Ning Fan and said with a cold smile. 12 blossoms. It seems like the blood rose has already bloomed to its limit. The number is already sufficient. Next, there's only one last step left. By watering the ancestral tree with Feng Shuiyan's blood, the 12 blood rose blossoms will bear ancestral devil fruits. As long as I consume these 12 ancestral devil fruits, I will certainly be able to break through to the void fragmentation realm in one go. Zhou Ming, oh Zhou Ming. Do you know that this ancestral tree is a devil tree left behind by the ancestors of my clan? Once it blossoms, even a void fragmentation realm jade slip would find it difficult to damage it. Only a true void fragmentation realm expert can destroy this tree. Are you a void fragmentation realm expert? You will never be able to destroy this tree and you will never be able to protect Feng Shuiyan. If you want to destroy the ancestral tree, you will need a miracle. Unless you instantly transform into a void fragmentation realm expert. However, you know that there are no miracles in this world. King Ju-Lu's smile became even more sinister. He suddenly formed a hand seal and the vines of the ancestral tree trembled again. Chi! Chi! Chi.at this moment, countless vines aimed at Feng Shuiyan at the same time and pierced towards her. After killing Feng Shuiyan, they would also slaughter all the cultivators in this place. Each of the cultivators of the 100-plus sects and the 7 venerated beings were filled with despair. Just like what King Ju-Lu had said, this ancestral tree was too terrifying. Only void fragmentation realm experts could suppress it. However, where were the void fragmentation realm experts? Who could save them? There were no miracles in this world anyway. Ning Fan already knew how terrifying the ancestral tree was. If these vines pierced down, even if Feng Shuiyan was protected by Su Yan and the others, she would not be able to escape death, he did not care how many cultivators of the 100-plus sects would die. Feng Shuiyan was the only one who should not die in this conspiracy. He suddenly let go of Yu Linkong and soared into the sky alone, facing the thorns of the vines that blotted out the sky. He was just like the butterfly that rushed towards immortal Emperor Zhangqing resolutely in the past. "I'll give you a miracle." His mind sank into the yin-yang locket and connected with Luo Yu's mind. With great tacit understanding, Luo Yu slowly transferred her magic power into Ning Fan's body through the yin-yang locket. Ning Fan did not even need to ask for it. Ning Fan closed his eyes. His aura force suddenly rose in an instant. Mid-Reckless Devil Realm, Late Reckless Devil Realm, Peak Reckless Devil Realm. Revered Devil Realm. All of a sudden, he turned into a giant revered devil realm that was 10,000 zhang tall. He had 2 horns on his head, 8 wings on his back and ghost eyes on his brows. He stood in heaven and earth with an imposing aura force that could crush the world. This was a revered devil, an existence that could defeat all void fragmentation realm experts at the same level as him. The giant waved his hand and the power of the ancestral talisman spread out. The vines that were powerful enough to kill a void refinement realm expert collapsed one after another. All the cultivators were stunned. Each of the low-grade cultivators was suppressed by the giant revered devil realm's aura force. All of them prostrated themselves on the ground. They could not even stand straight. However, the moment the revered devil realm appeared, the entire heaven and earth trembled as if they were afraid of the return of an revered devil realm devil. The aura force of an revered devil realm devil nearly suffocated King Ju Lu. He could not believe the scene in front of him even if he dies. Ning Fan had really turned into a void fragmentation realm cultivator in an instant. How could he believe that Ning Fan's body could give out a void fragmentation realm aura force at this moment? He tried to resist Ning Fan's aura force. However, in just an instant, he was shaken by Ning Fan's aura force, causing blood to flow out of his mouth and nose. He was severely injured and on the verge of death. What kind of terrifying devil blood was this? The grade of this devil blood was so high that it was not something that King Ju Lu could imagine. Impossible. I don't believe it. This is fake. King Ju Lu roared. Revered devil. The giant wore a pained expression. It was as if he could not control this power that did not belong to him and the backlash was extremely severe. However, his eyes were filled with determination. No matter what methods he had to use, he had to protect his obsession. If his obsession is destroyed, heaven and earth would be buried together with him. Star. Punishing. Bow. The giant's essence chi was earth-shattering. With a wave of his hand, he condensed a huge black gold bow. The power of mountains and rivers flowed into the huge bow while the power of the stars condensed into an arrow. When the arrow was aimed at King Ju Lu and the ancestral tree, even the tree itself began to tremble. Zhou Ming, stop! Stop! King Ju Lu screamed crazily. He could never understand why Ning Fan could actually obtain the power of a void fragmentation realm expert in an instant. Die! The giant's tone was still cold as he suddenly drew his bow. Mountains and rivers began to collapse as wind and snow swept through the sky. The bow was drawn and the arrow was released. The entire endless sea was shaking violently. King Ju Lu looked at the arrow light and felt that there was no longer any chance of survival. All of their plans would go up in smoke under this arrow. This old man started cultivating the evil Tao at the age of 7, vein opening at the age of 11, harmonious spirit at the age of 19, core formation at 100 years, spirit severing at 1,000 years and void refinement at another 1,000 years. But void fragmentation realm is hard to ascend to heaven. I risked everything just for the void fragmentation realm. In the end, it was all for naught. Perhaps the cultivation of Tao is a futile struggle. No matter how high one's cultivation base is, one will eventually die one day. However, this old man has been painstakingly planning to break through to the void fragmentation realm as soon as the progenitor tree bears a fruit. This old man is unwilling to give up. I can't accept this. Boom! The arrow landed with a boom, as if the sky was falling. King Ju-Lu and his ambition vanished into thin air. The indestructible progenitor tree also withered under the star-punishing arrow. Ning Fan could no longer withstand Luo Yu's magic power. He returned to his human form and stared at the withered progenitor tree in silence. At the moment the progenitor tree withered, Feng Shuiyan had already stopped burning her devil blood. Is it finally over? The surviving cultivators of 100 sects, more than 10 or 12, each of the cultivators who were lucky enough to not die, looked at Ning Fan's eyes. All of them were incredible and shocked. This Zhou Ming has really destroyed the progenitor tree. Countless sects in the 800 cultivation countries were in chaos because the life tablets of their disciples were shattered. What was most terrifying was that 9 out of 10 Void Refinement Realm sects that had participated in the muddy waters of the Giant Devil Clan had lost their Void Refinement Realm cultivators. Other than the Martial Ancestor Realm, the Profound Sound Valley, the Six Flames sect and the other sects were all shocked. Even the Rain Sovereign was shocked by this. The 800 cultivation countries had lost 9 Void Refinement Realm experts in just one night. This did not include King Lan Ling's second primordial spirit. Countless Divine Transformation Realm cultivators had died. What exactly happened in the Endless Sea? Why do you sects have to go to that troublesome place for no reason? In the Rain Palace of the Middle State, the Rain Sovereign sat on his jade throne and roared at the deputy sect masters of the 100+ sects below him. This is great. The vitality of the Rain world has been greatly damaged. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. This time, the Rain Sovereign was truly enraged. Ning Fan's face turned pale. He thought to himself that he might not be able to use his magic power recklessly for a few months. Under the withered progenitor tree, Ning Fan suddenly turned his head in alarm. He saw a lady in red robes standing behind him out of nowhere. It's you. What are you doing here? Ning Fan was surprised. It was Hong Yi whom he had met once on the Thunder Bamboo Island. According to Ning Fan's guess, this lady's true identity was probably the Thunder Sovereign. I have a way to save the progenitor tree. It has already bloomed 12 blood roses. As long as you water it with Feng Shuiyan's blood, you will be able to obtain the fruits of the progenitor tree. Do you want to try to kill Feng Shuiyan and break through to the Void Fragmentation Realm? Hong Yi teased. You want me to kill my sister to prove my Tao? Ning Fan shook his head with a bitter smile. If it is someone else who had nothing to do with him, Ning Fan would definitely be ruthless enough to use their blood to nourish the ancestral tree and break through to the Void Fragmentation Realm in one go. However, if it was Feng Shuiyan, he would definitely not agree to it. I will use my own method to break through to the Void Fragmentation Realm. I won't kill her. That's a wise choice. Even if you kill Feng Shuiyan, this tree will not bear fruit. It will only bloom. King Ju-Lu's dream of attaining the Void Fragmentation Realm will never come true. Many people spend their entire lives, but they don't know that the flower they hope to bloom will never bear fruit. This tree doesn't bear fruit. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Then, he stroked the 12 blood roses on the ancestral tree. These blood roses were exchanged with the lives of Void Refinement Realm cultivators. None of them had withered yet. Upon closer inspection, these blood myrtles were all male flowers. How could a male flower bear fruit? Only female flowers bear fruit, don't they? Fortunately, King Ju-Lu did not check on the blood cress. If he did, he would probably die from anger. The Void Fragmentation Realm that he was pursuing was just like daydreaming. Or perhaps, it was just like what King Ju-Lu had said. The path of cultivation was originally a futile struggle. You didn't come to me just to talk about these topics, did you? What exactly do you want to talk about? Have you forgotten that you still have a deal with me? Hong Yi's blood-red eyes flashed with cold light. If Ning Fan really forgets what he promised her, she might just kill him on the spot. Ning Fan felt extremely helpless. How could he dare to forget the promise he made with the Thunder Sovereign? This woman changed her attitude way too fast. A feeling of weakness suddenly filled Ning Fan's entire body. He almost fainted. From the looks of it, I really need to lie on the bed for some time. Chapter 5:14. Hong Yi left with a cold expression. It was unknown what she was thinking. She came and went in a hurry. Ning Fan stared at the escaping light in Hong Yi's robes that was disappearing into the distance, and his eyes were filled with contemplation. Hong Yi's arrival was probably not because she was bored enough to chat with Ning Fan. Why did this woman come to the giant devil clan? She should have long known about King Ju Lu's conspiracy. The reason why she came here was probably because she wanted to intervene in the affairs of the giant devil clan and help Feng Shuiyan. Or perhaps she was here for the fruit of the progenitor tree. Ning Fan sat tiredly under the withered ancestral tree. His body was aching as if it was being pricked by needles and burned by fire. He could not muster any of his magic power at all. According to his estimation, even if he borrowed the power of Black Star to heal himself, it would take him at least 4 months to be in a state of serious injury and unable to mobilize any magical power. This was the price of borrowing Luo Yu's magical power. If he didn't have the starlight healing technique, he wouldn't be able to recover from this injury without at least 100 years. Inside the giant demon clan, there were countless surviving cultivators cheering. There were also countless cultivators who were filled with grief because their loved ones had died in this battle. Su Yan, Yu Lingkong, Ming Ke, and Fen Qi rushed to the foot of the ancestral tree and stood in front of Ning Fan to protect him. Looking at Hong Yi's fleeing light, all of them felt their hearts palpitating. They did not know who Hong Yi was. All they knew was that Hong Yi's strength was rather terrifying. Moreover, she suddenly appeared and left without staying for too long. She also did not show any hostility towards Ning Fan. Thus, she should be a friend and not an enemy. Your injuries are very serious. Su Qiling supported Feng Shuiyan and flew to Ning Fan's side. When she noticed Ning Fan's serious injuries, she felt heartbroken. Feng Shuiyan was no longer in danger. She regained consciousness and flew into the sky with Su Qiling's help. When she saw the injuries all over Ning Fan's body because of her, she felt a lump in her throat and burst into tears. Don't cry, it's just a small injury. Everything has passed. Ning Fan patted Feng Shuiyan's head and comforted her with a gentle smile. Yes, everything was over. Whether it's the 8 ancestors of the giant devil clan, the Ghost Eye clan, or the Lan Ling sect, none of them will have any designs on you. The impact of the battle with the giant devil clan was too great. The Rain Sovereign was enraged and sent out 4 experts of the Rain Palace to investigate the matter. Among the 4 powerhouses, the first to rush over was actually the Dragon Determining Valley Master, Chu Chang'an. Chu Chang'an's attitude towards Ning Fan was still considered polite. However, he was a little surprised by Ning Fan's speed of growth. The last time Ning Fan went to the Dragon Extinction Valley, he was still a mere Divine Transformation Realm cultivator. Today, however, he had become a reckless Devil Realm expert whose strength was comparable to a Void Inquiry Stage expert. Moreover, he even had many terrifying trump cards to protect himself. In this battle, Ning Fan had exposed too many of his trump cards. He even borrowed Luo Yu's power to transform into a revered devil lord. Too many people saw this scene, and the venerable devil's aura shook the entire Endless Sea. Unless he kills all the devil cultivators in the Endless Sea to silence them, he would not be able to conceal the aura of the revered devil king. Alright, his trump card was helplessly exposed. As for Ning Fan's reputation, it instantly spread across the entire Rain world after Chu Chang'an's investigation. An ancient devil cultivator, a 6th revolution pill master with a void fragmentation realm jade slip that could instantly transform into a void fragmentation realm giant that could crush everything, Ning Fan was not afraid of exposing his trump card. By exposing the void fragmentation realm jade slip, it seemed like it would only increase the respect and reverence the others had for him. Even though his identity as an ancient devil was exposed, he did not reveal the grade of his devil blood. Who would know that he was a terrifying ancestral devil with ancestral blood? The only problem was how to explain the sudden eruption of void fragmentation realm strength. Ning Fan would not be foolish enough to expose Luo Yu's existence. Therefore, when Chu Chang asked Ning Fan how he could instantly erupt with void fragmentation realm strength, Ning Fan's answer was, I found an unknown 7th revolution pill in some ancient ruins. After consuming it, one can instantly gain void fragmentation realm strength. There is no other pill like that. Chu Chang had also heard of a few types of pills that could allow a cultivator to instantly gain void fragmentation realm strength. Thus, he believed Ning Fan's explanation. After investigating Ning Fan's trump card, Chu Chang investigated the whole story of the battle against the giant devil clan. This time, even though there were many casualties among the 100+ sects, most of them were killed by King Ju Lu and the ancestral tree. Ning Fan only killed those cultivators who provoked Feng Shuian in the beginning. He did not need to be responsible for the casualties of the 100+ sections. In the eyes of the world, it was the 100+ sects who coerced the giant devil clan because of greed. King Ju Lu, on the other hand, turned the tables and sacrificed countless cultivators. It was basically a dog-eat-dog situation. How many people of the 100+ sects died? What does it have to do with Ning Fan? Moreover, if Ning Fan did not eliminate King Ju Lu, none of the cultivators of the 100+ sects would have survived. All of them would have died in King Ju Lu's hands. Ning Fan did not need to be responsible for the casualties at all. He was innocent and meritorious. The other 3 experts of the Rain Palace who were in charge of investigating the matter rushed to the scene. All of them were Void Refinement Realm experts of the Rain Palace. Their investigation results were the same as Chu Chang An's. They left one after another to report to the Rain Sovereign. After Chu Chang and the others left, Ning Fan's life returned to peace. As he borrowed Luo Yu's power, the backlash he suffered was too severe. He could not use his magic power for 4 months. He could not cultivate, concoct pills, open his storage pouch and enter the profound Yin world or the Yuanya world. Even his sea of consciousness was greatly damaged. He could only use an extremely weak trace of spirit sense. He stood under the eaves of his house and raised his head to look at the wind and snow of the cold northern country. All of a sudden, he felt a little tired. Cultivating the Tao is very tiring. I don't know how many more people I have to kill in the future. I don't know when I will die without an intact corpse due to a moment of carelessness. Ning Fan could not forget the 12 blood myrtles on the ancestral tree. Who would have thought that King Ju Lu would kill 12 Void Refinement Realm experts in a row with the ancestral tree? Who could predict the death of tomorrow? Cultivators with great abilities have the heavenly sense which allows them to seek fortune and avoid calamity. However, if they just try to avoid and hide, they won't be able to escape the calamity in the end. If I had been a little careless at that time, I might have been killed by King Ju Lu and turned into one of the blood myrtles on the ancestral tree. On the path of cultivation, one must not take even half a wrong step. A single misstep may cause everlasting sorrow. When I look back, 100 years have passed. Ning Fan stretched his hand out of the eaves. Soon, his palm was covered with a thin layer of snowflakes which melted instantly. Even though the snow here was similar to the snow in 7 Apricot City, they were still different. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with longing. He missed his home. He wanted to return to Yu country and his hometown as soon as possible. Now that there were no more enemies in the Endless Sea, he probably could really leave. However, even if he wants to go back, he should first heal his injuries. Currently, he was extremely weak and could not use any magic power. His physical body was severely damaged and he was as weak as a mortal. It had been many years since he experienced such a feeling of weakness. Ning Fan, who was in an injured state, was extremely weak. He was tightly protected by his women. There were Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppets guarding outside the courtyard. His women were living in the 4 corners of the courtyard to protect him at all times. Unfortunately, with such a tight defense, some people could still come and go as they please. In his mind, Luo Yu suddenly teased Ning Fan. That Void Fragmentation Realm woman is here to look for you again. I really can't tell that my younger brother Ning Fan has such great charm. As soon as Luo Yu's voice fell, a woman in red robes with a cold expression appeared beside Ning Fan. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. The amount of spirit sense he could use at the moment was limited. He could not sense anyone approaching him at all. However, he did not need to look to know who the person beside him was. Other than Hong Yi, who else could it be? Inside the Black Lightning Tower, Ning Fan found some dark lightning bamboo leaves to help Hong Yi heal her injuries. After some healing, Hong Yi's cultivation base actually recovered to the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. What a terrifying woman! Hong Yi's arrival naturally alarmed Yu Lingkong and the other women. However, Ning Fan gently waved his hand to indicate that he was fine. The women in your family treat you well. With them protecting you, I don't have to worry about your safety. Oh. Miss Hong Yi is worried about my safety? Even though Ning Fan knew that Hong Yi was the Thunder Sovereign, he did not say it out loud to avoid exposing her identity. Of course. You are still useful to me. Of course, I will care about your life and death. Hong Yi said coldly. I have promised you that I will help you with a small matter. However, I have yet to ask you what exactly do you need my help with? Ning Fan asked curiously. You don't have to ask too much. Take this item and quickly heal your injuries. Then, we will talk about the important matter. You are too weak now. You are of no use to me at all. Hong Yi glared at Ning Fan in disdain. Then, she took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Obviously, she had already left. Ning Fan shook his head and chuckled. He actually got despised by Thunder Sovereign Buzhou. However, when he lowered his head and saw the items that Hong Yi gave him, his eyes could not help but widen in surprise. Hong Yi had given him 2 blood-red jade boxes. The first jade box actually contained a low-grade 7th Revolution life-returning pill. The second jade box contained a silver jade token which was emitting a strong lightning power. This is the Thunder Jade token. Ning Fan had seen the Dong Su Realm's Thunder Jade token before. Thus, he naturally recognized its origin. The Thunder Jade token only had one use, and that was to enter the Sovereign Tomb. According to common sense, only cultivators could obtain the Thunder Jade token by participating in the arena battles held by the Zhou clan in person. However, since Ning Fan already knew Hong Yi, why would he need to participate in the arena battles? According to the agreement between Ning Fan and Hong Yi would only need his help after many years. However, since Hong Yi gave the token to Ning Fan at this moment, she probably changed her plan. As for the fact that the dignified Thunder Sovereign Buzhou actually gave Ning Fan a 7th Revolution pill to heal his injuries, Ning Fan felt flattered. Of course, he would not think that Hong Yi was interested in him. Hong Yi was not an ordinary woman. The fact that Hong Yi would give him such a precious pill could only mean that she valued Ning Fan a lot. Moreover, it was based on the relationship between the two of them. That was enough. With my current condition, it's not suitable for me to consume a 7th Revolution pill. After my injuries recover a little, I will consume this pill. I will certainly be able to fully recover in one go. Before that, let me take a look at this jade token first. Ning Fan carefully studied the Thunder Jade token and realized that it was not an ordinary jade token. Instead, it was the most precious bestowment jade token. Not only did the bestowment jade token have the same effect as ordinary jade tokens, but it also contained a trace of bestowment magic power that was bestowed by the Thunder Sovereign. If one refines this power, one's cultivation base would improve significantly. For example, the 7 venerated beings of the Internal Sea, including old ancestor Dong Su, had obtained the bestowment jade token in the past. The bestowment jade token they obtained contained 50,000 units of magic power. As for the one Ning Fan had, it contained 100,000 units of magic power. Could it be considered as a special treatment from the Thunder Sovereign? The Sovereign Tomb is located in the Zhou clan of the Internal Sea. It's an enclosed forbidden area without any entrance. The only way to enter is to place a trace of one's soul on the Thunder Jade token and send it into the tomb. As long as you have the Thunder Jade token, you can enter the tomb at will no matter where you are in the Rain world. If you don't have the Thunder Jade token, you won't be able to enter even if you stand outside the tomb. Currently, my injuries are extremely severe. However, I only need to use a trace of my soul power to send a trace of my soul into the Sovereign Tomb. The matter that Hong Yi wants my help with must be related to the Sovereign Tomb. I can go in and have a look first. Ning Fan turned around and entered the house. He placed the 7 revolution pill box on the ground and sat on the bed with his legs crossed. He held the Thunder Jade token in his hand and closed his eyes, placing a trace of his soul power on the token. Then, he immersed his mind into the token. All of a sudden, the scenery in front of him changed. As if it had crossed countless spaces, a trace of Ning Fan's soul mysteriously appeared in the sovereign tomb of the Zhou clan. The place where he appeared was a horse-herding tribe beyond the Great Wall. He was dressed in white robes. His appearance was exactly the same as his physical body. However, his cultivation base was only at the pitiful first level of the vein-opening realm. It was not because of his injuries. Instead, it was because any cultivator who sent a trace of their soul into the sovereign tomb for the first time would only have a cultivation base of the first level of the vein-opening realm. The true body is very weak, but it's still stronger than my injured and weak body. Ning Fan clenched his fists and looked around. It was surrounded by grasslands, and the snowy mountains could be seen in the distance. There were many herdsmen around. These herdsmen behaved like mortals, but upon closer inspection, they were actually the undead that lived in the sovereign tomb. The tomb of the Thunder Emperor housed countless departed spirits, living eternally in a state that was neither dead nor alive. Ning Fan had once obtained a map of the sovereign tomb from old ancestor Dong Su. It was said that 1/3 of the terrain of the sovereign tomb was recorded on it. The sovereign tomb was divided into 3 regions, the outer region, the central region, and the divine region. Most of the specters living in the outer realms were mortals. There were many undead cultivators in the central region, but they were at most at the soul formation level. As for the divine domain, there was no lack of void refinement realm undead creatures and even void fragmentation realm undead creatures. It was said that the spirit of the Thunder Emperor lived in a strange state in the Emperor's tomb. Ning Fan already knew that Hong Yi was the Thunder Sovereign. However, he did not completely believe in what the Thunder Sovereign said. Perhaps the undead Thunder Emperor really existed in the god's domain, or perhaps it was just a rumor to mislead the world. Ning Fan observed the terrain and fell into deep thought. If he remembered correctly, the herdsman's tribe on the snowy mountains in front of him should be the Snow Lotus tribe in the western region of the Sovereign Tomb. The outer region was extremely vast. In order to travel from the outer region to the central region, one would have to travel at least hundreds of thousands of li. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base at the first level of the vein-opening realm, it would be a little difficult for him to enter the central region. Big brother, are you an outsider? Why have I never seen you before? A young lady who was wearing a long robe who was around 13 to 14 years old rode a small red horse and stopped in front of Ning Fan. She skillfully held the reins of the horse and smiled at Ning Fan enthusiastically. The young lady's appearance was not considered beautiful, but she was still delicate and pretty. Her bright eyes revealed intelligence and bravery. Her valiant temperament did not lose out to the daughters of some humble families. I just arrived here. Ning Fan nodded his head. Oh, so it's Big Brother who is just passing by. Why don't you come to our Snow Lotus tribe and have a cup of our specialty lotus wine to warm your body? The young lady got off the horse and invited him enthusiastically. Sure. Ning Fan nodded his head. The purpose of him entering the sovereign tomb this time was just to look around. He did not have any special purpose. Thus, he would not reject the young lady's invitation. I am Xiu Yan, the daughter of the Snowy Lotus tribe's chief. What is Big Brother's name? The girl smiled sweetly. Ning Fan. When Ning Fan uttered these 2 words that he had not heard for a long time, he felt relieved. In the past, he had assumed the name of Zhou Ming and Liu Bei. Today, however, he could call himself Ning Fan again. He already had enough strength to move unhindered in the rain world using his real name. He didn't need to be afraid of anyone plotting against him. He could only step on the corpses of others. Big Brother Ning, you look really good. Xi Lian scrutinized Ning Fan carefully. She felt that he was the most handsome man she had ever seen in her life. Her cheeks involuntarily blushed and her heart thumped wildly. She led Ning Fan's horse all the way into the Snow Lotus tribe. She was as happy as a sparrow. Very good age, the first awakening of love, the prime of youth. Outside the Snow Lotus tribe, there was a tall wooden fence that surrounded the entire tribe. A bonfire was lit in the center, and a few men were standing guard outside the tribe. When Xi Lian was about to lead Ning Fan into the division, a man suddenly blocked her path. Young mistress, please wait. The clan leader has ordered us to discuss important matters in the tribe today. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter the tribe as they please. That man's indifferent gaze swept past Ning Fan with vigilance. Obviously, he was not going to let Ning Fan, a person of unknown origin, into the tribe. Big Brother Ning is a guest who is just passing by. Our Snow Lotus tribe has always been hospitable. Big Brother Ning is my friend. He isn't an unrelated person. His surname is Ning. The man's indifferent eyes suddenly turned cold. Among the tens of tribes around my Snow Lotus tribe, none of them have the Ning family. Only the Ghost Wolf tribe has this surname. This person must be a spy of the tribe. Men, take him down. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Several burly men who were guarding the gate surrounded Ning Fan. These burly men were ordinary undead spirits. They did not have any magic power. They only relied on their martial arts to injure others. Ning Fan's eyes indifferently swept across these burly men. He was not angry at all. Instead, he said with a faint smile, "I'm not a member of the Ghost Wolf tribe." Even though he killed people like flies, he would not kill innocent mortals for no reason even if they were just undead spirits. Why should we believe you? The burly man's expression was still cold but his tone had softened a little. He had read countless people. From Ning Fan's indifferent eyes, he could faintly tell that this person was not lying. Because I'm an outsider. Ning Fan released a trace of magic power aura force. Even though it was only at the first level of the vein opening realm, it made the few burly men's faces filled with shock. Immortal Master. You're actually an immortal master. If Ning Fan was an immortal master, of course, it was impossible for him to be a member of the Ghost Wolf tribe because the tribe only consisted of mortals. How could there be an immortal master among them? Besides, an immortal master could annihilate the entire Snow Lotus tribe with just a wave of his hand. Why would he lower himself to disguise as a spy and sneak into the tribe? We're sorry for offending you. The few burly men who were guarding the gate cupped their fists and apologized with respect. At this moment, none of them dared to offend the white-robed young man in front of them anymore. This young man had the strength to flatten the Snow Lotus tribe. Chapter 5:15. There were only a few hundred people living in the Snow Lotus tribe, and all of them were mortal specters without any cultivation base. Ning Fan cast a sidelong glance at the center of the tribe from the corner of his eyes. He could see a huge bonfire burning on a tall wooden frame. Some young herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe were slaughtering cows and goats and roasting them near the bonfire. There were also many women in who attire dancing around the bonfire. Whether it was a man or a woman, their gazes were as pure as the snow on a snowy mountain. Looking at this scene, Ning Fan suddenly felt a sense of tranquility. The Snow Lotus tribe was a hospitable and peaceful tribe that stood aloof from worldly affairs. It was a good place to stay away from fights, noise, and intrigue. Unfortunately, it did not belong to him. Big Brother Ning, you are actually an immortal master. That was amazing. Do you know how to summon the god of berserkers? Do you know how to summon death soldiers? It was said that there were many immortals in the central region of the Emperor Tomb who could summon barbarian gods and dead soldiers. One immortal could defeat tens of thousands of people. Do you know these immortal techniques? Xi Lian asked with a look of admiration. No. I only know how to kill. Of course, he wouldn't say the second half of the sentence out loud to avoid scaring the young lady. You don't know how to summon the barbarian god and the undead soldiers, what a pity. The girl was a little disappointed. The few burly men who were guarding the entrance of the tribe had already reported Ning Fan's arrival to the patriarch. The chief of the Snow Lotus tribe was a middle-aged man with stubble. His name was Shisaw. He was discussing something important with the elders of the tribe. But when he heard that Ning Fan's immortal master had arrived, he immediately turned pale with fright. He didn't dare to be negligent and blew the bugle horn, leading all the warriors and women of the tribe to welcome Ning Fan's. "We greet immortal Master Ning," Seiza respectfully said. Ning Fan let out a soft sigh. When he had just entered the sovereign tomb, he met Xi Lian by chance. Under her invitation, he wanted to visit the Snow Lotus tribe. However, he did not expect that his arrival would scare this peaceful tribe. He shook his head and consoled her. "Everyone, you don't have to worry. I'm just passing by the Snow Lotus tribe. I'll leave after drinking a cup of wine. I definitely won't harm the lives of the people of the Snow Lotus tribe." As soon as he heard that Ning Fan was just passing by the Snow Lotus tribe and would not harm anyone, Patriarch Shisaw heaved a sigh of relief. "Since immortal Master Ning has passed by our Snow Lotus tribe, you are our guest. Our Snow Lotus tribe may not have much, but we do have a lot of good wine and meat. Roast the fattest beef and mutton and prepare the best lotus wine to welcome great immortal Master Ning." "All right." The atmosphere suddenly became lively. Those herdsmen who were afraid of Ning Fan's vain opening realm now put down their fear and entertained him with good wine and meat. He did not use any of his cultivation base anymore. He did not want to scare these mortal undead spirits. He didn't display any lofty behavior. He was just like an ordinary person, sitting quietly under the bonfire, eating meat and drinking wine while chatting and laughing with the old men of the Snow Lotus tribe. Ning Fan was a cultivator who was experienced and knowledgeable. His way of speaking and his knowledge had won the admiration of countless elderly members of the Snow Lotus tribe. His alcohol tolerance was extraordinary. Many young warriors of the Snow Lotus tribe had a drinking competition with him, but none of them could make him drunk. As long as Ning Fan did not want to get drunk and his heart was not intoxicated, he would not get drunk. His alcohol tolerance had also subdued a young warrior. Occasionally, there were a few enthusiastic women who invited Ning Fan to dance with them. Ning Fan had no choice but to reject them. He did not know how to dance. However, he took a chang flute from one of the herdsmen and began to play it to accompany those women. The sound of the flute was simple and melodious. That simplicity represented Ning Fan's inner heart. At the same time, the sound of the flute also contained an indelible sound of a powerful army. That was the massacre that Ning Fan had committed in the past that he could not erase in his entire life. His flute had subdued countless young ladies of the Snow Lotus tribe. It also subdued Xi Lian. Many of them cast flirtatious glances at Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan turned a blind eye to them. He just raised his head and looked at the sky that was gradually turning dark. He looked at the moon that rose in the night sky. He put down the chang flute. After cultivating the Tao for more than 40 years, he felt like he was in a dream. Wandering in a foreign land with no one to rely on. All the pursuits of a cultivator were like an illusory dream and an ethereal moon. The sky was already dark, but the bonfire became even brighter. He closed his eyes and listened to the crackling sound of the flames in the bonfire while recalling the past of his life. Fame and fortune were illusory, cultivation base was illusory, power was illusory, beauty was illusory, good and evil were illusory, illusion was illusory, moonlight was illusory. All of these were illusory, but what was illusory? What is void? Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes and revealed an expression of enlightenment. When he entered the Emperor's tomb, he only wanted to explore the Emperor's tomb. However, he did not expect that the peaceful scenes of the mortals in the Snow Lotus tribe would arouse his thoughts and enlightenment. And this Tao comprehension was actually the Tao comprehension of the word void. Even though he had unexpectedly broken through to the Void Inquiry stage in the Star Palace and was already a mid-reckless Devil Realm expert whose strength was comparable to a Void Inquiry stage expert, he had never thought about the word void in detail. At this moment, the question he was asking himself was, what is void? It was a question that all Void Glimpse stage cultivators would ask themselves before they advanced to the Void Glimpse stage. Once one understood what the void was, one could pry into the void. By controlling the meridians of the void, one could ask about the void. Standing in the void ocean, one could reach the void pierce stage. Standing above the void, one could reach the great void. Ning Fan suddenly smiled. It seems like I can really comprehend the true meaning of the word void after entering the sovereign tomb this time. Currently, he was just a trace of his separated soul, which was only at the first level of the vein opening realm. However, in the sovereign tomb, it would be a good opportunity for his separated soul to regain the cultivation base of his main body. Just as he was thinking about it, faint sounds of galloping horses could be heard from outside the Snow Lotus tribe. The sounds were mixed with the night breeze. There were at least thousands of cavalrymen who were giving off strong killing intent. The sound of galloping horses was very soft and it was extremely far away. It was difficult for mortals to distinguish it. However, it could not escape Ning Fan's ears. Ning Fan put down the wine pot and let out a soft sigh. It seems like the Snow Lotus tribe has gotten itself into a great calamity. Today, the discussion between Patriarch Shisa and the other members of the tribe is probably related to this calamity. He cupped his fists at Patriarch Shisa and bid farewell. Thank you for giving me the wine, Patriarch Shisa. I have some matters to attend to. I'll take my leave now. Patriarch Shisa was stunned. He did not understand why Ning Fan wanted to leave when he was only half drunk. However, he certainly did not dare to stop Ning Fan from leaving. If Ning Fan wanted to leave, he would immediately send him off with his men. Ning Fan, however, waved his hand. Holding the Chang flute given to him by the Snow Lotus tribe, he quietly disappeared into the night. Shi Lian and many other young ladies of the Snow Lotus tribe looked at Ning Fan's skinny back and sighed faintly. It seemed like their young hearts were stirred, however, it was impossible for Ning Fan to stay for them. He also would not tell them the purpose of his departure. He wanted to go and kill people to eliminate the enemy for the Snow Lotus tribe. He did not want to let the several thousands of cavalrymen massacre the tribe. At the foot of a snowy mountain that was 30 li away from the Snow Lotus tribe, there was a snow river that flowed down from the mountain. On the riverbank, there were nearly 5,000 sturdy cavalrymen who were stationed there. These 5,000 cavalrymen were holding 3 huge banners. They were the Ghost Wolf tribe, the Desolate Wolf tribe and the Tranquil Wolf tribe. The reason why the 5,000 cavalrymen of the 3 tribes had appeared at this place was only for one purpose, to attack the Snow Lotus tribe that was 30 li away. Ha! I heard that the Snow Lotus tribe has a lot of cattle and sheep. Moreover, there are also many women with soft and tender skin. Hee hee. Our 3 tribes will join forces and massacre the Snow Lotus tribe. We will divide those cattle, sheep, women and slaves among ourselves. What do you think? All right. When the 3 leaders of the tribes were discussing about the massacre of the Snow Lotus tribe, one of the scouts suddenly noticed a white-robed young man walking towards them under the night sky. A few scouts immediately drew their bows and shot their arrows at the white-robed young man who was suddenly approaching the army. The wind created by the arrows whistled fiercely. However, before the few arrows could get close to the young man, he suddenly flicked his sleeve and all the arrows turned into ashes and dissipated in the air. As for the white-robed young man, he took a step forward and suddenly disappeared from his original spot. How is this possible? Before the scouts could figure out the situation, a bloody hole that was as thick as a thumb suddenly appeared on the forehead of each of them. Their blood splattered across the sky and they fell off their warhorses, dying on the spot. The few scouts actually died in such a strange way. Hiss! The warhorses neighed in fear, alerting the 5,000 cavalrymen of the tribe. Who are you? You have just charged into the army of our 3 tribes and killed our scouts. One of the leaders shouted furiously. Ning Fan appeared in the night and stood in front of the 5,000 cavalrymen of the tribe. Do you all want to attack the Snow Lotus tribe? Ning Fan asked indifferently. So what if we do? Don't tell me you want to stand up for the Snow Lotus tribe and fight against our 5,000 cavalrymen all by yourself? The leader said disdainfully. Yes. Ning Fan replied indifferently. With just you? One of the leaders revealed a mocking smile. From his point of view, Ning Fan wanting to fight against the 5,000 cavalrymen all by himself was just a pipe dream. Why do you want to stand up for the Snow Lotus tribe? How many cows, sheep and beautiful women have the Snow Lotus tribe given you? I will give you double of that. You will help us attack the Snow Lotus tribe. Another leader tried to tempt him cautiously. He had seen the strange way the few scouts died. They were killed by Ning Fan almost in an instant. Judging from that, Ning Fan was indeed brave and had value in recruiting him. Ning Fan did not say anything else. He did not care about the ridicule of others, nor would he be tempted by them. He, Ning Fan, did not need a reason to kill people. Why would he need an explanation? If he must find a reason, then there was only one. He did not kill for wealth and glory but for the kindness of a meal. With a flash, Ning Fan lifted the Chang flute and activated his first-level vein-opening realm magic power. The ordinary Chang flute that was made of oil bamboo became a terrifying killing weapon in Ning Fan's hands. It was even more powerful than a low-grade flying sword. Chi! Chi! In just an instant, the dozens of cavalrymen at the vanguard were all pierced through their foreheads by the Chang flute and fell off their horses. The three leaders of the cavalrymen were shocked. Ning Fan's killing technique of controlling the Chang flute was no longer a mortal's martial technique. It was an immortal technique that could only be seen in the central region. Immortal master. This man is actually an immortal master. He is an immortal master who came from the central region. An immortal master can slaughter 10,000 mortals. Damn it! The Snow Lotus tribe is just a small tribe with only a few hundred people. No matter how many cows and sheep they have, it's impossible for them to invite an immortal master. Why did this immortal master help them? I don't care anymore. This man is alone after all. We have 5,000 cavalrymen with us. Let's fight him to the death. The three leaders revealed ferocious expressions. As soon as they blew the horn, 5,000 cavalrymen immediately took their bows and shot arrows at Ning Fan. The arrows were like meteors chasing after the moon, emitting cold glints in the night sky. Ning Fan stared at the 5,000 arrows. His eyes remained unmoved. His figure flashed and disappeared like a ghost. All 5,000 arrows missed their target. The magic technique he used was just a small vein-opening realm magic technique. It was called invisibility. With his first-level vein-opening realm-separated soul, he could only use low-grade magic techniques. It was as if he had returned to the days when he just started cultivating the devil path. To mortals, however, the invisibility technique was already a terrifying ability. Chi! 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 Every time the Chang flute attacked, dozens of people would definitely lose their lives. Under the night sky, Ning Fan was the only one who was engaged in a one-sided slaughter. Indeed, he would not use magic power to bully mortals. However, he would not care about the 5,000 cavalrymen who bullied others with their strength. He would just kill them directly. The night sky dispersed and the morning light shone on the snowy mountain. Ning Fan stepped over 5,000 corpses and coldly walked towards the other side of the snowy mountain. In the Snow Lotus tribe, Patriarch Shisa was still wearing a worried expression. He had received news that the Ghost Wolf tribe and the other two tribes were going to massacre the Snow Lotus tribe. However, the news seemed to be inaccurate. The Ghost Wolf tribe did not send any cavalry to attack them. What was going on? For 3 consecutive days, the Snow Lotus tribe was still safe and sound. During these 3 days, the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe who went out to investigate discovered a terrifying scene at the foot of the snowy mountain 30 li away. 5,000 cavalrymen were all killed by someone. The killer's method was extremely terrifying. It seemed like he had used some kind of special weapon to pierce through the foreheads of all the cavalrymen, leaving a bloody hole that was as thick as a thumb on their foreheads. Judging from the situation of the battlefield, there was only one killer. It's a killer. He killed 5,000 cavalrymen of the Ghost Wolf tribe and the other 3 tribes all by himself. This is really terrifying. Each of the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe, including Patriarch she saw, was deeply shocked. At the same time, they also felt lucky. After all, the 5,000 cavalrymen were obviously going to attack the Snow Lotus tribe. If it wasn't because of the mysterious killer who killed all of them, they would certainly massacre the entire tribe 3 days ago. It seems like we should thank that mysterious expert. However, I wonder who this expert is. Each of the herdsmen of the Snow Lotus tribe sighed. It's him. It's Big Brother Ning. Shi Lian was the only one who cried tears of joy. She recognized the bloody holes on the foreheads of the corpses. They were caused by the Chang flute that was specially made by the Snow Lotus tribe. Perhaps there was only one person who had the ability to kill 5,000 cavalrymen with an ordinary flute made by the Snow Lotus tribe, Big Brother Ning. The young lady looked into the distance with gratitude and sighed. She thanked him for saving the Snow Lotus tribe, but she did not ask for anything in return. She also sighed because Ning Fan would never come back. This isn't his home. He isn't a returnee. He's just a passerby. Ning Fan crossed the snowy mountain and continued walking for another 3 days. The Thunder Sovereign's tomb was very mysterious. Every time he killed an undead spirit with cultivation base, he would certainly obtain a lightning fruit that was similar to a Dao fruit. The magic power it contained was roughly equivalent to 1% of the medicinal power of an ordinary Dao fruit. Ning Fan had killed 5,000 people, but he did not obtain any lightning fruits. Of course, it was because those people were just mortals. However, during the 3 days he spent crossing the snowy mountain, he discovered dozens of vein-opening realm spiritual beasts in the depths of the mountain. To mortals, these spiritual beasts were extremely terrifying. However, they were not worth mentioning to Ning Fan. These spiritual beasts sneakily attacked Ning Fan. However, they were all killed by him with a wave of his hand, and he obtained more than 20 vein-opening realm lightning fruits. After Ning Fan consumed more than 20 vein-opening realm lightning fruits, the cultivation base of his separated soul broke through to the 5th level of the vein-opening realm in one go. This cultivation base was exactly the same as his cultivation base when he was the young lord of the 7 Apricot City in the past. He stood at the other end of the snowy mountain, walking in the night sky. He raised his head and looked at the bright moon in the sky, looking back at the mundane world like smoke, 5th level of the vein-opening realm. His body was healing itself using the Black Star technique. As for his separated soul, it wanted to continue walking in this sovereign tomb and improve its cultivation base to a higher level. Vein-opening realm, harmonious spirit realm, gold core realm, nascent soul realm, divine transformation realm, void refinement realm. Step by step, he wanted to walk on the path of cultivation once again. This path would not take too much time. With his abilities, he only needed a short amount of time to cultivate his separated soul to an extremely high level. It's just that I still haven't figured out, what is void. He looked at the bright moon and felt that the mundane world was getting further and further away from him. What is void? On the 4th day, he walked to the other end of the snowy mountain. It was a small town with a river. On the surface of the lake, boats with black awnings were coming and going. From time to time, there would be young girls waving at Ning Fan, who was standing on the shore. Ning Fan did not say a word. He just stood on the bridge and looked at the flowing water beneath his feet, waiting for the night to fall. Looking at the reflection of the moon in the water, he seemed to have understood something. 1 day. 2 days. 3 days. On the 6th day, he looked at the reflection of the moon in the water and threw a cobblestone to scatter the ripples on the surface of the lake. The reflection of the moon was shattered. All of a sudden, he understood everything. Emptiness is the scattered moonlight. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.